given that it is a best-of-3 format, we're going to have to do a couple map bans and a couple map picks. And you're curious as to where we're going to be playing. Well, here we have it. And so Mouse is going to get the first pick of the map, then it'll go to Noble's map, and then, of course, a tiebreaker as well. It's nice to see best-of-3s again, I will say that much. It's good to be able to watch high-level competitive play with best-of-3s. It gives a lot of variance, and I think, you know, back a couple seasons ago in another unspecified league, you would see that teams would not do the best on the first map, but then on the second map, they'd be able to regain their footing and potentially stick it out in the tiebreaker as well. It's nice to see the differences in different league formats. So
yeah, you know, having a smaller amount of matches to go through on every broadcast day definitely does help with that. But we'll see Clubhouse, Oregon, and Bank being our tiebreaker. Clubhouse picked by mousesports. Not too surprising. They're starting off on the defense. Pretty decent map for them, to say the least. And then Noble going for Oregon, which I guess it is a map that a lot of the big teams go on there to die, but we'll see who wins it out in this one. Maybe the anchor play from England will be enough to push Mouse over the edge in that second map to go to map 3 onto Bank. Hell, maybe we'll see Mouse winning the 2. Maybe we'll see Noble winning those 2 matches early on as well.
I really want to see Bank, just in general, because I feel like it's a map that has so many varieties, especially off of the main site, which tends to be the downstairs site and, you know, in lockers, CCTV or security, if you want to call it that. Clubhouse is always interesting. I really like the changed Clubhouse.
Oh, it's so much better.
The new Clubhouse is...
Molto bene. It's so
good. Great. It's great. I don't know what I'm trying to do. Like it's good. You know, it's good, but I don't know what the hand signal is. There we go. Can we do this? I don't know. I don't want to offend somebody with a hand gesture when somebody's like, "That's not what that is." I don't know.
What are you talking about?
Okay, this is the U.S. Nationals. All right, listen here. Settle down. I don't control him.
Unfortunately, neither do I.
You don't control yourself?
No.
You have no bodily autonomy?
No. There's a master of puppets that's pulling the strings.
Noble and Mouse is going to be a really exciting matchup when we get this underway between these two teams, because I feel like they're both very evenly talented teams. Now, Noble has played really, really well in a variety of different avenues and other unspecified leagues, and then Mouse has a bit of a rockier start, but I feel like they've sort of found their footing over the last couple weeks, and as a team have played a lot better, especially in the U.S. Nationals. Both the teams have competed, I would say, pretty equally here. It'll be intriguing to see how they do in a matchup, because I'm expecting this is probably going to go 3 maps. And once we hit Bank as the ultimate tiebreaker, that is going to be the most intriguing for me, because there are a lot of teams that just don't play well on Bank. It is... I don't know. I would probably say, like, it's one of the few maps where you need to be a bit more strat heavy than you do on, like, say, an Oregon or a Border, where you can just play those as a tiebreaker, and it can be, you know, even strokes between the teams. But you go to Bank, and if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get clobbered.
And that's the thing for me. If we go to Bank, I highly see this going the way of mousesports as a team that is a lot deeper into strategy compared to Noble. Again, we're like, Noble are pretty good, and then strategy-wise, mousesports go ahead on that, especially on Bank, which is a map, as you mentioned, you can't just run around like headless chicken and, you know, just assume you're going to take the win. You have to have some base strategies and stuff about it. However, one thing I'm afraid for Mouse is that they get the ball rolling, but then it just halts, and it allows so many teams to bring it back against them, and that morale thing has to be fixed before this matchup.
Speculation aside, let's get into the game and take a look at exactly what's going to happen on the battlefield. I do find that Mouse, as you said quite correctly, the way you said it is that Mouse is a team that seems to be very momentum-based.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and Noble is a team that can just frag out of their minds. This is a team that is able to take the fight repeatedly and have great individual performances. The amount of times that I feel like we've seen Yeti just run absolutely roughsod over a team by himself, way too high to count.
Yeah, it's just the whole team has so much in offer, and Thatcher will be the first operator to be banned, which I assume means we're going to see a lot more play with Legion, with Mute as well. And we've seen a lot of Bandit plus a Mute play, especially here on our first map.
There's a direct correlation to Ying's ban rate and the amount of games that mousesports plays. And the reason why is because they have one of the best, I would say one of the best strategies involving a Ying in all of North America, usually centered around Vandal and his ability to just cause so much chaos with those Candelas.
Yeah, and that really is their role, the disruption. And we might be seeing an Echo or a Maestro ban, and there we go. Echo will be removed at the end. That'll be Mouse's final ban. As a reminder, the bans go, Team A, B, B, A. So, ABBA. They're a good ban.
That's a Dancing Queen style of banning, It's great. But Oregon being the stage to start things off, no surprise that Laundry Room and Supply Room will be the very first place for us to go, typically seen as the best site to defend.
And, really here I want to mention Vigil being, as you mentioned, Daddy Cool, because we're putting the references out on the board. Pulse as well, fitting that role. I wonder if we're going to see the Pulse change at the end. He offers quite a bit with that defense in Laundry and Supply. And having the Vigil as well, obviously with those impact grenades, with the ability to move around your opponents, you might be seeing defenses that are centered more to the top side. Not surprising at all, Maestro will be the 6th pick, but Dokkaebi, perfect pick here for Acid on the 6th pick of the attackers, to be able to use that to clean up any roamers that are potentially playing on the top floor.
And of course with Dokkaebi, she can't hack the yokai drones, but she can the Maestro kits.
Exactly.
And that's a big change as well, because I think we see a lot of teams will run an Echo if Maestro's banned. If Maestro's banned, they'll run an Echo, or they'll run an Echo if Maestro's banned, etc. It's just back and forth, because I think with a lot of these teams, they use them in such similar circumstances. Number one, you got an ACOG on both the operators, so you're going to be in a position where you can take those long-range fights, etc. Doesn't matter who you are. Maestro can shoot long range. I would say Maestro's LMG is probably better than the suppressed MP5 that Echo runs, but the yokai drones are a little bit more powerful in the the execute stage of the attacker's game plan. So,
but obviously Maestro, what it brings with the laser cameras is the ability to set them on walls that are sometimes even more complicated to deal with than where you would put your yokais on the ceilings. But the big thing with the yokais is that, and we've seen a lot of this because now you have 2 yokais, is that you can run them around the map and support your roamers, and that is a powerful thing to have. And you see Yeti going for what is now a very standard strategy, coming into small tower, opening things up in the dining hall, and trying to contest kitchen ASAP. And the Vigil, realizing this, reinforces the entirety of the walls from the pantry and the kitchen leading into meeting hall, and is going to sit back and relax.
Usually with Oregon, for those that might not be the most familiar with them, you'll typically have 2 to 3 of your defenders playing off-site when the site happens to be Laundry Room downstairs. So there's nothing that weird to see 2 bodies in meeting hall.
Yeah, and also playing from the backstage and the tower stairs, very important position. That's why you see the Zofia here, a Breezy, locking down the back just in case one player is forced off on the rotate. But he's going to go back. He's expecting maybe somebody to peek him from the tower. Won't be the case here, and he'll move back on the Zofia as Heavy. We'll be looking through the pixel angles of his glass. And the hatch, all the equipment will get, there you go, lobbed in. They might just be going for an attack here as a grenade is thrown in, no damage done to Mouse.
Well, if you had the defender sitting behind a reinforced wall, it looked like that was just simply to try to do some environmental destruction and open things up, which makes an awful lot of sense. But as quick as Noble has been to take that front hatch, usually their execute onto a roam clear is a lot quicker, and they don't have a great amount of speed. Vertical gets kill number 1. That's Yeti gone. The buck gets felled. Now, at this point, your buck has probably done most of what that skeleton key is intending to do, so you've lost the fragging potential of buck, and especially Yeti is probably the best player on Noble too, so you've got the best shot that's down. Then just an advantage to Noble, or an advantage to mousesports is taken away from Noble. The biggest thing, though, for me, is that they haven't been able to clear out meeting hall. Still, mousesports is just going to hang around and is going to basically loom over top of them at any point, can come back. And unless you commit a body to permanent flank watch, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. But time for execute as there's 30 seconds. You're going to hear the first logic bomb, a great shot from Heavy as Beastly just peeks up. I don't really know what he was doing there. And Evil Eye goes down, and Wet Meat will get his first kill. That's England taking out Crazy. Acid with a double. So Noble in bad shape, but have made the best of the circumstances that they find. Plant going down now. As you can see, Vandal's going to have to push up. Goes for covering fire, but that UMP not enough damage, leaving Wet Meat last alive. But Acid with 3 kills will cap things off in round number 1.
Yeah, more like roasted meat at this point.
It's just roast meat. It's like roast beef.
Roast beef.
Roast beef.
No, I honestly, I have to commend the way that Noble played it at the end. Of course, Acid getting those 2 kills upstairs, holding the rotation. Even with a man down, they're able to hold the rotation because very smartly, again, they had an angle to play from the kitchen pantry into meeting hall just in case there's a rotation to come in from the flank. It's another position where you would be set in, and it worked out perfectly. There was an evil eye at the back in the hallway downstairs that was looking in through the smokes, and I'll remind you, an evil eye sees through smokes. It's got thermal vision, and the way that the smoke peaked, even though they had information on where the smoke, the glass was, where he was chucking in his smokes, all of that is just a bit, it leaves me a bit in doubt in that first round because, again, Mouse start with an advantage, yet somehow lose it out. And I don't know if this is going to keep going round after round.
I think what ended up happening is as the execute was taking place, we saw the Dokkaebi move into meeting hall and directly confront the 2 off-site players of Noble and won the fight both times. That's huge.
Expected. No one was expecting that push from the side, and unfortunately, it was exactly what Noble, because you just mentioned right before they went for the push,
right,
they didn't clear out meeting hall. But when you have a fragger like that on your team, it works perfectly. No one from Mouse was covering their back.
I just can't believe that Acid was able to pick up those 2 kills. And realistically, a scenario where, okay, you've got Noble, you've got 4 left, you've lost Yeti. You stick somebody who ended up being the Dokkaebi on permanent flank watch, because that's what you need to do. Time and time again, we see teams that will have, 1 or 2 offsite players inside a meeting hall. They'll be able to just absolutely pick apart the attackers as they try to come back to site because you can't really split the execute when you're already down. And then a numbers advantage, Or I guess technically that would be a numbers disadvantage. So Noble essentially had 3 people trying to take the site against 2 of mousesports. But then they decided to peek a glass. Everything unraveled. They tried to use the evil eye cam to just get a couple zip-zaps in on the diffuse plant, and nope, couldn't do it. So interesting to me is that the maestro of wet meat has just sat back. I'm just honestly going to call him England because I feel like that's probably easier, and most people know that he's England, so I'm just going to call him England because that's what he's gone by for.
England is my city.
England, yeah, I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
You don't live in England, so.
I need a visa to go there.
As for Noble's positioning right now, very similar to what we saw last time, except they're not really investing anything inside of that kitchen wall. They've just been able to open up the pantry wall, which means that Vertical is going to need to sit a little bit safer behind those sandbags. He's playing with the drop hatch behind him, so at any point he can drop down the hatch, be able to get back to site to help. The big thing for me if I'm Mouse is last time you let Acid push you, you got to be able to get back to site a little bit safer next time around.
Yeah, and that's why you see the Havana using one of the Exkyros to open up the pantry, because it gives Acid that point of view to look in. Now, you saw, similar to what happened in the previous round, is that once the defenders of mousesports realized that the attack was going to be coming in a very standard one from small tower into kitchen, then through into meeting potentially, they immediately reinforce the pantry and sit behind to try and hold off in the back. Now, because Thatcher is banned, and that was banned by mousesports, I'm surprised they're not bringing a mute or a bandit to help their way in this one, but the first kill will go the way of Acid again. He takes a lot of damage, but the Vigil will get taken down. The potential plant here as Heavy is holding from the back.
And you can see Heavy getting a couple more shots in. Acid having a great game at the moment. Very successful plan as the glass just needed to provide cover, and that was Heavy's job. He did it remarkably well. Crazy really just needs to hang out down there as he watches that diffuse. You've got Yeti up top, just watching all the way into meeting hall. Heavy pulling out his pistol. That did not look like the PMM to me, but oh, it is. Never mind. Hyper will reciprocate onto Acid as Yeti takes one down, and oh no, a team kill from England as he takes out Beastly. Not great, but you see the C4 go right by Airmail as it misses. Vandal hits Yeti, but misses one target. We've got England playing the bottom along with Vandal, but that's it for England, and Vandal goes down as crazy. A big double kill to end things off, and Noble, hey, 2 rounds looking really good to start things off.
That's pretty good, to say the least. And 2 rounds have been fairly convincing. It seems like the instant the plant comes down, mousesports just have no idea how to react and just end up scrambling. And in the confusion and the chaos, Noble end up getting frags off of them one by one. But they're going to go back to laundry supply room. I'm kind of surprised at this point.
I mean, if you're not feeling particularly comfortable defending bunks upstairs, you don't really have any other choices, right? And I mean, I don't really know here. This is something that we've debated in other unspecified leagues before, is that certain teams will go to the same site after losing it repeatedly. And I mean, at this point, what do you have to lose by choosing another site, really? There was one instance, I remember correctly, I believe it was Pain Gaming. They went to CCTV downstairs and bank lockers 4 times in a row.
Yeah, and they lost all 4.
They won the final one in a 1v3 clutch, and that was it. And it was like a remarkable, like, last second skin of your teeth clutch.
You get a clutch like that.
You're going to win anything. It doesn't matter what site you're on, right?
Yeah. Just at what cost? You won a round, but at what cost?
At what cost?
I love that.
But at what cost? Well, I mean, it technically wasn't any cost because they won the round. They ended up losing the match because, you know, they lost the first 3 before
you
that.
won the round, but at what cost? It cost you 3 others before that you handed your opponent. And, you know, that we might go to bank and talk about that later on. But here we'll see a finally different side.
That start of the execute looked much better for Noble, but Mouse was able to swing it in the post-plant, which was exactly what I think they needed. The biggest problem right now that Mouse is running into is they don't have any option to deal with the glass. But I mean, it doesn't really matter because at the final second they did opt to go upstairs to bunk, so we don't have to worry about them going back downstairs. That's good. An opportunity for them to try a different hold. And I mean, very similar to the way that we see laundry room, supply room play out, is that you're going to have a couple bodies playing on that main floor. It doesn't matter where the site is, there will almost always be bodies in Oregon on that main floor. It just depends on where you put them. Here we see a couple in the bathroom. I'm very curious to know if Noble or if Mouse has done any research, because Yeti has entered the same way every single time. He's pushed in through that small tower. He's put some pressure on the kitchen for the first round. He's now in a position to do it again for the 3rd round. The 2nd round, he just went right by it. But here we go. We'll see he'll take an engagement in the kitchen. The kitchen bathroom is going to be where I would imagine we're going to see first contact. But for the time being, Noble's done some drone work. I think they found Vertical playing inside of the bathroom, and now they're going to start to push up. You've also got the Legion playing. That's Vandal, who's going to be, at this moment, will have to scramble. As you can see the wall behind him getting taken out by those XK-Ros.
Yeti will drone on in as Yabana is not around here. She has fallen back to the showers, and they will push the defenders out of position. There you go. The Buck trying to engage, but unfortunately can't find the angle with the holographic. And the thing is, this is a very standard way of attacking now in every single region, in every single tournament. This is how you attack into Oregon, no matter the site, except for maybe tower, but still. It gives you a huge advantage. And you see, the wall is not reinforced. They were planning on holding the kitchen for a lot longer. Vertical peeks in, and unfortunately for Yeti, he turns the other way as Vandal will get the 2nd one, eliminating Acid. So no more IQ and Buck.
And it looked like Yeti might have seen the Pulse turn that corner for just a second, but came out the doorway the wrong way. Maybe not a fatal blow to Noble, but you lose the IQ, who lost her frag grenades, so she doesn't have that same capability. The only set of frags on attack were in Buck's hands. He's gone now down as well. I mean, you still have a Glaz, you still have a Zofia. She's still got all of her lifelines available with the dual grenade launcher. Glaz is just going to walk right in. You can hear the Maestro doing some significant damage. Breezy is down, and this is all Mouse at the moment. Crazy will trade off Beastly himself, and Crazy with another double kill. That's huge. Goes for a 3rd, but cannot connect. England will get the last 1 and 2 for England. Crazy and Heavy will be no more, and Mouse will put their 1st round on the board. Comes in the 3rd. So they'll have to go back down to the laundry supply room, where they've been unsuccessful so far.
Yeah, just a very good hold there from the Maestro. Obviously, you get so many rounds in the box magazine of the Amelie, so you can just keep on consistent fire. The instant that they read that push in, very good to respond against it. The Habana might have done a bit too much damage in that position, but still very well salvaged at the end. Mouse seems to have learned from their mistakes, but honestly, I look at it from the start, it was very shaky, very much in the hands of Noble. And then the opening kill on the Buck and then the follow-up immediately on the IQ, there was no opportunity for Noble to refrag. And had they tied it up 4-4, we might have seen a different way of finishing that third round. But Mouse, as you mentioned, will go back down to laundry and supply room, and they should be bringing the same lineup as before. I don't know if Hyper will switch off the Ela, but if they want to dedicate more players upstairs, there we go. So they might be dedicating more players into the meeting hall, or maybe all the way up top in the kids' bedroom.
I'm really surprised by Mouse not trying to stop the meeting hall push, which has now 2 rounds in a row been their undoing. They had every opportunity to drop back down to site with that drop hatch, but they just can't seem to make it work. You know, you would see
it's really showing at this point. But we'll see Acid switching around to the IQ this time around, away from the Dokkaebi that has worked so well for them. But it's not like IQ is any pushover of an operator, to say at least. She might have lost her grenades, but she still brings a lot on the table in terms of pure firepower and anti-utility play.
This is Noble's map too. Let's not stray too far from this. So it shows exactly why teams are proficient. This is something that we used to see previously in unspecified leagues, where, you know, a team in a best of 3, or in any league actually that ran best of 3s, that there would be teams that would be more comfortable on particular maps. You know, we see here Noble picks Oregon. Okay, let's say hypothetically, you know, they win resoundingly, and then we go to Clubhouse, which is Mouse's pick. They win resoundingly. That's the strength of being able to ban maps and then be able to play a longer series than just one game. Because, yeah, I mean, you might not end up in a situation like this when it's a best of 1, because usually you're going to try to narrow it down. You know, I'd imagine that Mouse probably would have banned Oregon if this was a best of 1 series. But best of 3 gives a bit more of a strategic element, I would say, to the map ban phase.
A bit of leeway, you know, mistakes here and there.
There's forgiveness. If you lose the map ban phase, there's usually some wiggle room for you.
Yeah, but the problem is, as we mentioned earlier on in the broadcast, that mousesports are very much reliant on momentum, and I don't know how effective they'll be at resetting after this this first map. If they end up losing it, even if they lose this round, they'll give a big advantage for Noble on to end up on a 4-1. Now, this might just be the case where mousesports would be very comfortable on the attack, and it very much might be the case. So there's still a lot more to unfold as we go in. Acid, in the meantime, just holding off the main entrance. Nobody pushing in from here. Remind you, they're pushing into laundry. So same attack that we've seen quite a few times now. This is the 4th time we get to see this site. Zeddy's taking control of the attic, and Acid still watching the opposite end. Heavy is just locking down the back stairs of the tower. Looking down the hallway, nobody pushing in so far.
I'm also very interested in how much the addition of England has been for mousesports too.
Yeah, good point.
Now, I mean, having to pick up a player last minute, as Neptunes had actually tweeted earlier today that he had left mousesports, so that was something that was something that I hadn't actually known up until very recently. So Neptunes has left the team. He's decided to go his separate ways. Now, it's very easy for when somebody says that to, you know, is it a you can't fire me, I quit kind of deal? We have no idea. But Neptunes has said that he's left. First kill's, by the way, going to go to Acid. Is that vertical taken out? You know, it's possible that they have to come up with new strats, because England has not been, you know, a consistent staple of the team.
Yep.
And if, to the best of my knowledge, this is their very first game with him, at least that we've had witness to see. Crazy going for the plant. He has gotten, what, 3 downs so far successfully? And he'll get yet another as Vandal now dispatches Heavy in a 4v4 with the timer working away. Crazy now at the backside, waiting for a push. He's got Breezy with him, but Hyper will be there to jump on him. No real opportunity for Breezy to trade that one off. Acid is there to take out Hyper, and 2 from Acid. He's just getting a bunch, yet he takes out England, and Beastly's last alive in a 2v1. But they've got their sights trained on him. Just waiting. Whether he's getting pinged or not, he'll rush out, and Acid with a nice 4-1 in favor of Noble, and they're looking mighty good right now.
Yeah, Acid, so good. So good. Of course, our Polish heritage player here, Mr. Tomasz Adamczyk, who's he's been performing so well in literally every single matchup that they have, putting up the numbers, and it's that game sense, map knowledge, and also the ability to predict the movement of your opponents. It's just pure game sense, and he's got it. He's got the talent for it. And as a younger player within the nationals and leagues in general, I really think he's got quite a bit more to show in the future.
The thing for Noble is I'm impressed at how well they've done given how inexperienced that team is on this stage. And the reason why I say that is that, at the highest level of competitive play in this game, other than Yeti, the only other player from Noble that we'd ever seen play a match in that league was Crazy, where he played very briefly for Era prior to them getting picked up by Obey Alliance. Other than that, this is a debut in Pro League for Acid, Heavy, and Breezy. So, a debut at this level. At this level of play in the U.S. Nationals,
yes.
Not in other unspecified leagues.
Yeah, professional level of play.
Because the U.S. Nationals is professional. Because a professional is somebody who makes money doing a profession.
And also acts as a professional, which is someone that's investment.
And they are professionals.
Yes,
because they are playing a professional game for the U.S. Nationals.
Yeah, I mean. Hey! You want to be the best?
This is how you do it.
You gotta be a professional.
You want to be the best team in America?
Gotta be professional.
You gotta be professional. This is how you do it. This is how you do it. This is how you become the best team in all of America. Noble coming into the split with a 4-1 lead, and we'll see how they do on defense. Now, it's interesting. They're actually running a bandit, and I wonder if we're going to see that bandit. And a mute as well. These are two things that Mouse could have done to possibly make their life easier defending Meeting Hall.
They literally banned Thatcher themselves.
Hey, has anybody considered putting the operator bans on the overlay?
No, I don't think I've ever seen that.
I've never seen that in any other things. That'd be nice.
Maybe.
So two things we've gleaned from today. Being able to see gadgets and drones. And maybe operator bans.
Oh, Beastly trying to find the angle here.
Almost got
downstairs, just from the armory. And, I want to highlight the fact that the Ella is playing with a red dot. That is disgusting, by the way, Yeti. Stop playing with a red dot.
The red dot's fine. I mean, we see a number of players doing that. Now, one thing I did want to make note of that was actually quite important was what England is trying to do here.
Yeah.
So if the hatch is jammed, which it very likely is, you can put a mute jammer downstairs on one of the sinks or one of the laundry machines because there is a vertical element to the gadget. It's not just, it's not just around the sides. It's also up and down. Is that if you blow the wall behind the hatch with an exothermic charge, it also blows the hatch.
Yes. We've seen that even on Villa, actually. Maybe
people might not know that, so I figure it's important because you'd be surprised. Even simple things like, I know she's not in play, but shooting around the sides of a mirror, people be like, well, why do they do that? What's to widen your viewpoint?
Yeah, actually, speaking, maybe we'll get to see Mira later on, but
probably not. We will never see Mira again.
Yes, but what a lot of players have been doing is shooting out the wall, then reinforcing it and sending up the mirror window, which makes things a bit faster, but we still have a Zofia in play here, and well, just for a second, as vertical goes down. So Twitch also is in play, and there's unfortunately no shock drones left alive, or they would have taken out those mute jammers or bandit batteries earlier on.
Now, how proficient is Mouse going to be at stopping this flank? What a shot from Yeti! Oh my, and Hyper taking out Breezy. A beautiful shot from the team captain to Noble. As we're at a 3v3, a wonderful, wonderful position. Now, also, both Crazy and Yeti can strike at any moment, trying to flank. Crazy does his job, but Beastly is able to take him. And now you can see Yeti's going to push up. What speed! He gets a nice kill. That's his second, but the site completely encompassed by Mouse. And that was a very efficient push. We saw the opposite of what we saw when Mouse was on defense, which is that Noble took too long to capitalize on their roam play and get back to site. And by then, he'd lost control.
Yeah, you still need to, if you're going to play flank, you still need to have some sort of site control. Had an extra player stayed alive on the site, maybe, Smoke with a shotgun, would have seen that be a bit different in the turnout. The most important thing for me in that one is not only what transpired near the end of the round, but also the fact that mousesports were always getting refrags every single time. They were never losing out on the manpower that is oh so needed, because at 4-2, it's a bit of a complicated matter for them to go back up.
Yeah, and like I said, it was there's a thing to do with roamers. So when you're roaming, your primary focus is to waste time, possibly bleed out utility from the attackers, and not necessarily wound them, but win a war of attrition against them so that when they do push the site, they don't have the tools available to them that they did when they spawned into the map. You get a couple kills, obviously that's great, but it's not your primary focus. At the same time, when you're roaming, if the roamers are left alone for too long, you have a great flanking opportunity, and if you don't have somebody watching that anti-flank, which Mouse did, by the way, they had Beastly, took out Crazy, almost got Yeti, but still you had somebody dedicated to flank watch. The roamers can be ignored long enough so that when you put them in a position where they have to retake the site from the attackers, it's going to be easy for the attackers to just hang on.
Yeah. And you saw the Twitch's position near the end. It was a very open position that she was sitting in. It's you'd be expecting a different spot to be in, maybe more pushed up towards the back of the site. But oh boy,
that's not good.
How does this keep happening?
It's not good. Usually, you don't want to start off the round with a team kill. Yeti hopefully got some of his mute jammers down before he was sent to the Shadow Realm by Breezy.
It's a great bit of analysis there, Parker Mackay.
Usually you don't want a team kill. There's my contribution.
Is it all about, you know, donations to see if you can get a team kill here and there?
No, you don't. you don't want a team kill. Crazy up top is going to try to go for an ADS juggle here now, which means that as he picks it up, trying to ensure that it can actually catch the projectiles as they come in. The good news for Mouse is that it's only one ADS that they need to burn through, and they have a Zofia who has 6 projectiles that can shred everything that they need to. Though Heavy with that MPX gets a headshot onto the sledge as he's on rappel. Excellent job for them to be able to take somebody from Mouse out. A very brazen play as he ran out of it looked like the dining hall area to try and get one of the repellers on Big Tower. Heavy is still there though, positioned. It actually looks like he might be Small Tower. First set of phone calls and a Lion trying to keep Crazy from being able to move too much. He is under heavy fire, but they haven't been able to find him just yet. He's also got the deployable shield there, another secondary gadget that's popularity has risen over the last couple months.
Yeah, the problem is here, because the sledge was picked off, there's no grenades to chuck in at the end and remove that deployable shield. So there's a lot of potential playback from Crazy to do, but Hyper from below will find the angle and will get the kill to take out the T3 player, the final level here in the tower. You'll see the tower being taken control of by Vandal as he comes in. A bit of fire from the smoke. Unfortunately, we'll push him back. Heavy, though, getting the kill on England to at least do some sort of work against mousesports. So this tower now is being contested by both teams. Vandal looking for a potential peek here from his opponents. But Heavy, taking his sweet time in this. He'll get pushed back, take no damage, but he's forcing his opponents to look down into him.
And he's able to bait out those shots, and they know that they've lost control of the top of the tower, but just because you've got that third floor, that little perch, doesn't mean that you're going to be able to get the rest of it. And as you can see, a run out from Breezy looking to see if there's anybody that has pushed out to watch for a run out, but no, there's nobody. In the meantime, they will lose control on Hyper there with a great shot onto Breezy. It's now all in Mouse's favor with the diffuser down as well. And that was maybe not the best idea to get so aggressive as they did. Acid will dispatch Hyper before Vertical takes out Heavy. Acid's the last remaining teammate. I mean, that's going to be a 1v2 with that diffuser down. And Acid sees one. Oh, Vandal. Goodbye so long. But Vertical can have this angle from Armory, but he misses. Acid will try to stick the landing, and Vertical will need to push in. He's got time. He'll pop up. Oh my, Acid, what a clutch! And he should have plenty of time on the clock to get the defuse and win it for his team, but it's going to be tight. He'll get it at the last second. Oh, Acid, what a play! Running the clock down perfectly, and now Noble will sit on match point.
That was very unfortunate. I fear that this might be a big hit to Mouse's morale.
Oh, they were in such good shape.
Yeah, they had that round dead to rights, and then Acid happened. He's so good.
He's been playing very, very well, and
as they say, because he's Polish.
He was also benched from the team in another unspecified league for one match. And Noble had brought in ZZ in place of him. The experiment lasted only one game before they went back to Acid, and I think it's proven to be a good move. You can't replace a more support-oriented player who plays a support ops who can still frag out with somebody who's primarily tasked with fragging. Not that ZZ's a bad player, sure. But I think Acid's worth his weight in gold.
He is on a...
He's been playing very well. And
he's
the way
on
that
a completely different level at this point.
And the way that the team uses him as well has been very impactful. And that's exactly what they need, and it fits. Sometimes you might pick up a player who on paper would work better, but doesn't synergize all that well with your team. And ultimately, it's the synergy that matters more in a lot of instances than individual play. And if we can show the scoreboard for just one more second here, just so our eyes don't deceive.
Yes, there you go.
13 kills for somebody who's playing support operators.
He's good.
He's playing well today. This is a good day for Acid.
If anything, for me, he would be the MVP of the matchup right now. We still have 2 maps potentially to go through, but right now, I know who I would be most likely to push up there. Attackers recovered the bomb diffuser. Attackers must locate and defuse. All right, we'll be back in Laundry, and this time we'll see if Noble can get this defense done. As when they played this in the first round of their defensive side, they lost it pretty heavily. And mousesports here, realizing that their opponents have at least one player set up here in the tower, will be coming up. Try and deal with the Ella that also has a Maestro to play with her from below.
I like that Noble's gone to this site, is playing as if they're back on this site, but they're not. You can see the rappel line as Yeti is in a good opportunity and has a good opportunity to potentially strike. They've also got Heavy playing in the exact same spot. He did this last time around with the MPX. He's got the UMP this time, so a bit more of a stable gun, but Vandal will make Yeti pay for what he did to the team last matchup, or last round rather, as that's the very first kill for mousesports, who are hanging on right now for dear life. Now, mind you, it's a 5-2. The first split went strongly in favor of Noble. It is Noble's map. This all stands to reason, but Mouse will have that lead grow, as Yeti won't be too long for this Earth, as there is a frag grenade tossed up to blow up the yellow.
And this is why, for me, if you're not playing a Jaeger with double ADS up there, you should basically not play it. It really puts so much, because you've seen how many grenade operators and anti-ADS utilities even brought in, the disruption utility from mousesports. They have calls that can pin you down. They're going to push in from the side as well. They have grenades that have been so good, used by the team. It's so difficult for you to deal with it when you're not really being very reactive. If you're not getting that pick early on, you might as well back off. That ADS would have helped so much to burn as much time as possible in that position. That's the minimum that you're looking for.
I mean, we've also seen mutes play up there with mute jammers. We've seen Vigil play up there. The name of the game is withholding information. If you can throw a drone up and determine where they are, if there's no ADS, chances are they're probably dead. But with a mute and a Vigil, they're in a position where they can deny that information to you. You don't know where they are because there's a signal jammer, or because the signal doesn't exist because you're Vigil. It also looks like we're going to see a reset from the Buck here as Hyper drops down and will get picked back up. They do have the luxury of time as there's 40 seconds to go. Almost the final 6th of the round with Noble, not just at a numbers disadvantage, but also Acid being the only member of the team who has yet to sustain any damage. You can hear that LMG just firing away, but he's fully blinded. England will punish Breezy, as Breezy had peeked out for just a second in the smoke, trying to give some covering fire for his team, and now Mouse's assault will come from supply room. You can see the mute of Crazy trying to see if there's going to be a flank or a push from another direction. No, Hyper will finish off Acid, and Crazy doing his best, but in a 1v5, not enough. We'll pick up 1 kill before being felled, and that will be Mouse staying alive, singing some BGs, but still, it's match point for Noble. We got 2 more rounds to go.
Yeah, BGs, ABBA, they're all good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a throwback day.
Yeah, very much the case. And
I feel like we can't throw in ABBA, who are Swedish, by the way, who would not be eligible to play in this match.
Would it be the village people of the
should every member of ABBA
YMCA.
Should every member of ABBA download this game and go to play R6 Nationals or US Nationals? They would not be allowed to register.
Yep.
So
however,
we can name a nice band.
If you're the village people, you can play. So there you go. Just to put it into perspective, if maybe if you're Johnny Cash as well, you want to come in and play, you can. Fairly American, right? And also, it's not just about being American when it comes to rule sets. It's also being a resident in the USA. So even if you're of another nationality, but you reside within the U.S., that is already enough for you to play in this. It's all about that territorial position. It's all about the real estate, as you would put it.
I mean, BGs couldn't play either, but you know.
No, they're they're trying to stay alive.
So, still on match point here as Noble being led right now by Acid. Breezy is yet to find his way onto the scoreboard, which is not atypical, or not, you know, not the least atypical for a support operator, but usually you want to get a number or two on there that doesn't happen to be 0.
Good point.
It's and currently we'll need to, I suppose, help his team in other ways, which he's been doing. I mean, the fact that Noble is winning right now 5-3 is a pretty big.
One thing I'm interested in is this setup here. We usually see the opposite, with the middle being reinforced and the sides being opened up. This case is completely different because you kind of have a bit of leeway when you're playing inside of the by the main window, because you have a huge piece of bedding in front of you that'll take a bit of the damage off of you, which is why I kind of questioned the reinforcement part. But there you go. First kill is brought onto Yeti, and now the Pulse is eliminated. And you know what? Pulse with that C4 is still a pretty important part of your defense, and it kind of forces you to turtle back onto the site.
Yeah, you've got an information gatherer that's been taken out, likely going to be playing underneath. Classroom is not an odd place for him to be at the start of a round. Ideally, just maybe going for some information to know where the push is coming from before Pulse retreats to either the kitchen or the washroom, playing at the bottom of those white stairs as well. That could lead all the way up to where I'm assuming another member of Noble is playing. But, I mean, let's not get too ahead of ourselves here. Yeah, that's a great kill for Beastly to start things off, and it certainly does give a huge advantage to Mouse right out the gate. But Yeti was team killed 2 rounds ago, and Noble still won the round. So, I mean, it's doable that they can play from behind and still manage to win, but losing such a heavy utility-based operator like that is a major problem for them. The wall has been opened up from Master by the Thermite, and that's England who's playing, but he's solo right now. It doesn't look like there's anybody there to help him whatsoever.
Yeah, and the Thermite has already done his job. He's burned the ADSs as well, so great usage of the utility. Already, all the work has been done by the op. What you're expecting from him now is to go for that plant, and Hyper just watching the flank. I think Maus have learned from their previous mistakes, and there we go. They used the skeleton key to open up the floorboard and look down. Unfortunately, the grenade will bounce right into Hyper as he is forced back. Still plenty of time to play here for mousesports, but the second grenade from Beastly will not miss. And Crazy from below trying to find the angle. Unfortunately, he's pushed back. Heavy as well here to help him out as the impact pulls will try to get used by the defense. Unfortunately, all they're hitting is just bits of steel.
And Breezy is the only member of site right now, still without a kill. The smoke playing inside of small dorms. He'll throw one of his toxic babes, and it will be the last one, but he will be cut off by the smoke of Vandal. England going for the plant will be felled by Heavy before Crazy is eliminated from Vandal. So you've still got the smoke and the Vigil left alive. Right amidst the smoke, Vandal gets down, but Heavy downstairs in a 1v2, as Vandal will need to get picked up. Beastly in small dorms will go for the plant, and we'll see if somebody can hold it off. It's going to be vertical. How good of a shot is he? Pretty darn good. Heavy, not even a second after he gets off the top of those white stairs. No opportunity for him to get back to the site, and it's the Zofia vertical, giving Mouse 2 rounds in a row, and they are closing that gap in a hurry. Still match point for Noble, but Mouse within striking distance.
Yeah, this is what we talked about in the first half. Like, maybe this is just because both teams are a lot more comfortable on the attack, and it definitely does seem like it. But remember, a single round right now for Noble on defense will just end it. And the only way for Mouse to survive in this first map is to tie it 5-5 and go into overtime. As again, this is a best-of-3 series with our standard offline rule set, which means even though we're playing online, you still play best-of-3. It's if you're tied at 5-5, then you go into overtime. You play that small best-of-3 as we're all used to for really so long at this point.
I'm curious to see exactly what we're going to see. Any changes here? no 6 pick at the moment.
No.
So close. By the way, just as a side note, I don't often talk about cosmetics at all because I think a lot of times it doesn't really have much of a place in the competitive scene, but so close to Noble getting all 5 elites. Just off by Breezy. Come on, Breezy. But, oh well.
You got to throw those R6 credits, my dude. Just throw them out there, or maybe we need to smoke elite.
I would like that.
Yeah.
Noble's going to go back to the site that they just lost. And let's see what they can do this time around. How did mousesports make so quick work of the site players and leave the roamers off? Well, number one, for Noble, they lost Yeti right off the hop. The Pulse playing downstairs died within the first 15 seconds.
Yep.
Not a site player. Somebody who's likely going to position himself with that heartbeat sensor underneath the site. Constantly feeding information to his team and being there to aid everybody else to let them know how to play around it.
Yeah, and trying to deny as well the Thermite.
While also having Yeti IGL too, using that information to try and put the chess pieces on the chessboard, you know, exactly where you need them to go, so that you can obviously catch your opponent off guard. Losing him early, yeah, that's a pretty big bummer for the team. But then Mouse focused on the site play. A great grenade from Beastly to stop the push from White Stairs. And then you only have one left on site. That's Breezy playing as the smoke. You got 2 bodies from Noble downstairs. And then when it's a 5v3, you can watch flank so much easier because you have the advantage in numbers. You can stick 1 or 2 people on that and hope that at least one of them wins their gunfight. And then you're at a 4v2, and then it becomes even easier. So if I'm Noble, sharpen up your roam. Make sure that make sure that you get back to site quicker, which has been the case that we've seen a number of times, and it was also the story for Noble in the first round of their defense.
Yeah, rotating back on site. That is, knowing when to do that is definitely a skill that you learn with time. And honestly, it seems like both teams are just, for me, much more comfortable on that attacking side, as they've been able to pick apart the defenses of their opponents. Oh, the mute here. Oh no, that's actually heavy there on the Pulse. We'll have to run back. The important thing is that this time he is not lost early on. So Noble still hanging on and trying to burn as much time as possible, even dedicating Yeti on the mute to hold off in and around the kitchen.
Yeah, good clock management right now from Noble. They hit the halfway mark. They haven't lost anybody. Heavy did sustain some damage to that soft wall and rear stage, and I think Hyper is aware that he got a couple shots in, but it's not really something that we can glean because we can't have access to their team comms. The one big question for me that needs to be answered is how good is Mouse's execute going to be from Master into Generator? Because last time around, they had a numbers advantage. It was a lot easier because you knew there was only one person that was going to be playing on white and you didn't have to worry about somebody pushing back in. Right now, you've got the Valkyrie of Acid positioned at the top of White Stairs, who's been a deadly shot, the best so far in the game today. And grenades going off, but he's very wisely backed away. So he's not going to have to worry about being picked off. And then you've still got the Pulse feeding information on when the plant is going to go through.
See, Yeti's still positioned below. There's 2 C4s that can potentially get used by the defense. Heavy still scanning in the kitchen. See England trying to move in from the center, but now there's so little time left. Vertical, though, finding the opening on the smoke. Great operator to take down here. Vertical with one more coming into his own. Diffuser's going to get set right in the hallway as Beastly gets one, but Acid finally gets it. All the C4s are up, and Acid gets it, but just a second too late. Might be heading into overtime. It's only Acid alive. We've seen how much damage he can do, but here he might have bitten off a bit more than what he can chew as he comes up from the White Stairs, moves in, checking Generator, checking the closet, and even the main window, and Vertical instantly finding the shot. Vertical, he's coming into his own. This is great for Mouse that they're able to bring it back and are not, they're not discouraged, to say the least, as we head into overtime.
We said that Mouse was a bit more momentum-based and at the beginning of the broadcast, and I mean, I think that's true. The first split goes in favor of Noble 4-1. Second split goes in favor of Mouse 4-1. You got the exact same thing happening. The real story here is that defense have only been able to win 2 of the 10 rounds at the moment. Very attacker-sided with the Echo and the Mira off of play right now and out of play from the bans. Nothing too strange to see. Noble will start on defense. That's not great if I'm Noble, because number one, you get 2 cracks at defense. Defense, very obviously the weaker side at the moment with the way that this match is playing out. I would rather be attacking twice in that instance, just based on the probability that you're going to win these rounds. So Noble, though, they're going to have to try to win on Laundry Room and Supply Room. We'll see if they're able to make it happen.
We'll see how they play around with the Bandit. I assume those batteries will get set up in the meeting hall just to contest against anybody coming in from the kitchen. We've seen how strong the Habana has been in there. I'll remind you that Thatcher is banned, so you can't use that operator in this case. So Mouse will have to get a bit creative and maybe get themselves in a bit too open positions to deal with the batteries if they are indeed set in the meeting hall. See Acid reinforcing here from the pantry very early on. They'll even reinforce the side. Yeti, you see him doing that from the main hallway. Very smart plays, and Crazy, as we mentioned earlier on in the round, he's going to be setting up his batteries in here, and even an extra one on the side to not allow a potential hard breacher, whether it be Thermite or Habana, to open up from the side. In this case, it'll be the Thermite being played, and I wonder how Mouse will try to deal with the roamers on their opponent's side, because Vandal on that Dokkaebi is definitely a big part of it.
Yeah, and I want to give a second to just focus on England's play so far today. He's been playing roles he's very comfortable with.
Yeah.
You know, he used to play a lot of Thermite way back in the day. Way back in the day. When Thermite was, always referred to as Fragmite, back when his gun hit. His gun hit a little bit harder and had, then they had the changes. They nerfed its damage, they gave it a ton of recoil, yada, yada, yada. But it's good to see him playing those roles, then of course playing a support player as well to allow Mouse to have both Hyper and Vertical, and maybe Vandal also play offsite. Speaking of Mouse, though, Hyper is going to be the first person to get lit up here as Yeti is in the top of that tower. Now, you were critical that there was no ADS to catch those grenades and projectiles. Well, Yeti is still up there. He's persisting. He's managed to kill about a minute at a time, and one of the things that Ella is going to do is she can commandeer that 3rd floor and really keep people away with those mines.
And I just wonder, how is this Yeti do this? He gets the kill on Hyper, and he turns to the 2nd! England going down to Yeti as another Gishmot mine is set up by the Ella, forcing their opponent back. Though Yeti finally is down on the floor, but at what cost? At what cost here, Parker? That's the Thermite and the Buck remove.
So it was good for mousesports to finally take care of the Ella, but an exemplary job from Yeti, being able to just take control of the top of that tower and really hold it down. And anchor off-site. Now, anchor is a term that we use to describe people who play on site, but Yeti really anchored down that 3rd floor tower, and he managed to take out probably the 2 most important operators available for mousesports. Maybe not if the Zofia is still around with Vertical playing, but you lost your only hard breacher, and you gave Noble a numbers advantage. With a minute left, you wasted a lot of time. Great clock management, great utility from Noble, and especially from Yeti, with just fragging potential and using those mines to keep everybody from mousesports at bay.
Yeah, unless mousesports pull off a bit of a miracle play, thanks to maybe Vertical or comboing with Vandal's calls, I really see this round going Noble's way. And this harks back to the first talks that we had at entering the overtime, is maybe that one win on the defense will be more than enough for Noble to take overtime in a 2-0. But this round is yet to be done. You see the smoke being thrown in from the Dokkaebi to shut down heavy rotations in the back. Smoke doing a bit of damage with his gas canisters.
A C4 from Crazy will sail over top, gets one. Breezy will find his way onto the board as Vertical is down, and it's all up to Beastly. He'll find another C4, why not?
You get a C4, everybody gets a C4.
An explosive end of the round from Heavy as he tries to fetch the diffuser, knowing that at that point, time was running out, and hey, it's gonna be our 3rd defensive victory, and it's match point as well with Noble on attack. So this is an advantageous position for them to be in to get the W. It really, in a matchup that, through the first split, did not look like it was going to be even remotely close.
Yeah. And what I like here is, finally, Mao's realizing that they need a bandit, they need a mute. Why remove the biggest anti-utility operator and anti-electrical operator on that attack with a Thatcher and not bring anything that plays into your hand in that case. Finally, we'll have those in place. I wonder if they're going to 6-pick one of these two operators, but oh, Maestro being changed around for a castle for playing laundry supply. I think mousesports are very wary from an attack from the side. Either that, or they're going to put up their castle barricades around the meeting hall just to be safe and secure in that position. Very possible that we'll see that here, or maybe utilizing their castle barricades to hold the hallway coming in from the tower. So that obviously offers a bit of protection as well from the back of the site.
Yeah, mousesports running a much more obvious meeting hall setup here, which, you know, I mean, maybe it's the lack of a Mira that was giving them a bit of hesitation in fully investing in meeting hall, because usually a Mira makes guarding meeting a lot easier. You know, you'll throw a Mira down in the closet, looking at the typical plant spot, the default plant spot, and then you're also going to likely throw a Mira up top, watching inside a pantry. You'll have a bandit wire on it. It makes it a lot easier. You castle it all off. It's a nice reinforced area, like a bunker almost for you to be able to play out of. But who knows? I mean, this is just idle speculation for us. Interestingly enough, from Noble, they're going to see a push come from the tower. Now, Noble, when attacking this previously on this site, would usually have Yeti and one other enter through either small tower or the bottom of white stairs. Not the case, though. As you can see, Yeti is going to help the rest of his team ascend up to the top of that tower. Now, unlike the way that Noble defended, Mouse has completely conceded the advantage that the tower will give you, and instead is going to stack up bodies in meeting hall rather than have somebody play on back of rear stage or even in tower 2. And this is going to be a problem, because how do you get around a castle? Well, you just go through the attic, and that's exactly what we see Noble doing right now, as Yeti works his way in through the back of the attic along with Breezy, and this could get really bad for Mouse really, really fast.
Yeah, and this is why I like that Habana pick over the Thermite. Just offers a bit more utility. When you're not really looking to open up entire walls to push in. You just want holes that you can use to take out your opponents, and of course taking down hatches. And X-Kairos are more than good enough to fill those two roles. You already see the Glass of Heavy looking down with through his scope, trying to eye somebody in from the hallway.
You've also seen, though, Mouse has completely fallen off. Look at their positioning. They've moved two of their bodies, the Mute and the Bandit, over by Classroom and by the kitchen doorway. So they could actually catch Noble's push before Noble can execute onto the site.
You still need some hatch control. There's still a minute 15 on the clock. It's a decent chunk of time. You see Noble will just push in from the back of the site, and Hyper gets the first one on Acid, as Acid's role of hunting those roamers will be shut down. Still the buck upstairs, and even you see Vandal giving information back to his teammates on the pulse.
This is an excellent job, but Noble has managed to work their way into sight. Breezy with 2 before Hyper is there. He's worked his way out of meeting hall, back down to sight. Vandal blows up heavy, and it's right now Mouse just swinging for the fences. Hyper takes down another, and Yeti in a 1v3. The Buck will have to outgun a Smoke, a Mute, and a Pulse. Now that C8 is a great weapon, but it's got a bit of bobble on its first shot, and he's got 3 bodies that are all going to be eagerly awaiting for his advance.
I'll find the angle here, and wow, Yeti getting the kill onto Hyper. That was not something we were expecting. I'll try to go in for the plant, but should be an easy kill there. He takes the gas canister to the knee.
It's what a catch.
Whoa!
Of course, those canisters do a couple ticks of damage when you throw them.
I mean, he has the hazmat suit on him. Unfortunately, it's still a pretty heavy gas canister, and you just shuck it into your knee, and you just end up shattering it. And unfortunately, the Buck, whilst he's a pretty good forest man, lumberjack from the north. Unfortunately, they're not really trained to work their knees correctly. It seems odd because you always lift with your knees, right? Not with your back. But I don't know. You know more.
You're supposed to lift with your legs, not with your knees.
Well, you need to use your knees
or not
to
with
lift.
your back. Well, yeah, but you don't lift with the knees. That's what you have
But you need
calves
to
and thighs for.
But you need the knees. It's the bee's knees. You need to like bend them.
Oh my god. It's good to be back.
I really do miss you, Parker.
It's good to be back. Focusing on the game for just a second here, though. A bit of an oddity. In the first 10 rounds, the defense won twice.
Yeah.
Through the first overtime rounds, the defense has won twice. So
what is happening? Statistically speaking.
Conventional wisdom has been flipped on its head, at least for the time being, and the conventional become the unconventional. This has pitted us. We're still on map 1. We are still on map 1 right now. And it's going all the way to round number 13. Lucky number 13. Now, I said at the start that if I was Noble, I wasn't exactly happy with having to defend twice, just because the likelihood, based upon the game that we've seen so far, favors the attackers. That's not been the case through overtime. The real question, though, is going to be, how is Noble going to do defending upstairs? Now, their only defensive victory prior came on tower in that 1v3 opportunity where Acid was able to defeat everybody from Mouse. What's going to happen here? It does look like that Valkyrie camera has been spotted, so that's going to be some information that will be deprived from the defenders. It's a pretty classic spot to put it. You put it on that little windmill tower. It's the, what's a weather vane? Is it called a weather vane? I don't know, I'm a millennial. I don't know what these things are called.
If it doesn't have avocado on it, I am not interested.
They're going to lose some utility, though, in heavy playing downstairs. If you're looking at where Noble is, they are wildly spread out. This is going to put a lot of emphasis on Mouse's drone game to make sure that mousesports are finding exactly where everybody is. Because with Noble, I mean, Noble's return to the site, their flanks have not been great so far this game. I haven't really seen anything all that impressive with their ability to get back to site alive while getting a kill as the execute is happening. Mouse has done a pretty good job of shutting down every single time.
We'll see, at least the thermite is going to open up the side of the closet. It's very standard. Make sure that you get all that work done. I think it's being mute jammed and right at the moment. So,
if only they had a buck that could possibly go underneath.
Whoa.
Or a Zofia. You know, a Zofia could do that. A Sledge with his grenade could do that. There's a lot of things that Mouse could have, you know. Oh, wait. They have all those things. The biggest problem, though, is that they've got Noble playing down by the bathroom and by the dining hall. They finally managed to open it up, and this should be able to get that open closet. But if you remember, every time that Mouse has opened that up, they've struggled to transition into the plant, and they've done really well in that mid-transition, mid-round adaptation style of phase, which is what we're about to get into as we're in the final minute. First kill is going to go to Yeti in small tower. So long, Zofia vertical off the board.
By Zofia, and you see how all that's the overcommitment. But
that is some utility from Acid. The reason for that is because they know that there's 4 grenades on the board, and Mouse has been nading the top of those stairs every time to stop the diffuse plant from being prevented.
Yeah, I see all 3 players are going to be funneling in from the white stairs, so ADS is there, of course, make a lot of sense, as well as the mute jammers, just to slow down the information gather, though. Remember, Noble still have players from below, and that's what the Buck's trying to eliminate here. Fortunately, he's running out of time. mousesports with a man down. Oh, Heavy's going to get dropped on the floor. No C4 available via his Valkyrie just yet. Will get picked up at the end. 10 seconds left on the clock. Noble will have to play this one out as mousesports run into generator, try to go in for the diffuser plant. Yeti coming around from the side, but Beastly will find the angle with the SMG-11. Try to push in. Acid will get one. He turns around for the second, taking down the Sledge, whips out the pistol, gets one. Beastly with a grenade being thrown onto Heavy. His Vandal will walk in from the closet. He's spotted as well. It's a 2v2. Can they find it? Yes, Crazy can. Now it's Hyper rotating in from the white stairs. A lot of time left on the diffuser, and it's now all up to Noble as they find the last kill. Hyper goes down, and right to the darn ticker. It's Noble that'll get that last round. 2 defense wins when defense has struggled so much in regular time, and it's Noble that gets map number 1. And what a tight game 1. I have to say, this was a very, very entertaining match to see. And if it weren't for small mistakes, we would have seen Mouse take this sweep back.
I honestly, I'm astonished because through the first split, like I said, Noble was up 4-1 through that first split.
Yep.
I am.
Look at that. 17 kills.
I mean, I guess that's what happens. When
He's good.
Also, yeah, but that's. I mean, we're impressed by that number, but that's also 13 rounds of play.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's gotten just a little bit above 1 kill per round. Quick maths. But I'm impressed with the way that I'm more impressed with Mouse than I am with Noble in that matchup. Now, I mean, this might sound a little strange, but looking at the way this played out, I was way more impressed with Mouse. The way that they were able to come back after finding themselves at a huge deficit. It was 5-2. It ended 7-6. They made up a lot of ground in the latter half of that game.
Yep.
And they did so with a new member of their team. And that's the thing that's really impressed me was that England did some small things in a couple of rounds, but every other time that we really saw and focused on him, his play as Thermite in particular, it's shown. He did much better on attack than he did on defense, I think, overall. So really, really strong performance from him in his first matchup with Mouse that we've seen at least. I'm really intrigued now with how close that was on Noble's map. I'm interested to see what happens on Clubhouse.
Oh, yeah, very much. But before we get to map number 2, let's take a look again at the highlights of this first map. We got to see quite a few brilliant plays from both teams. And as you mentioned, I'm fairly impressed as well by Mouse's play, being able to claw things back. It seems like they're a lot more comfortable playing on that attacking side, and really both teams are. So kudos to Mouse, and as you mentioned, maybe if they had their regular lineup, it would have been a different story, but you can't really blame it on England. It's not like he underperformed. It was just, it's the first time coming in, playing with Mouse in an official game. It's not an easy thing, and then you almost pull it off against a team as strong as Noble. Yeah, that's a pretty impressive feat.
I mean, when we say normal lineup, their old lineup, because Neptunes is off the team, right?
Yep.
So just wanted to clarify for people that know that Neptune's no longer with the team. He tweeted out earlier that he would no longer be playing with them. He will seek another team to play with after the Paris Major has concluded. But we don't know if England is going to be a permanent pickup for the team. We don't know what they're going to do with their roster. But for the time being, he's joined them at least for tonight. So we'll see what happens, though, as Mouse gets the opportunity now, after being so close and finding a lot of momentum, and being able to bridge that huge gap, claw back, go into overtime, and then perform well.
Yep.
They lost, but it was pretty impressive. We'll see how they can do on Clubhouse, which is their match, which will be up in just a second. And Clubhouse provides a very interesting style of play because it's once again a map that is going to be dominated by smart Thermite plays. It's another map where we see a lot of Thermite being used, very similar to Border.
Yep. We
could conceivably see a ban here, a strategic ban, to possibly take that operator out of the fight, not necessarily just to counter England, but in general.
All right, we'll head into game here. Clubhouse will be our second map in this best-of-3 series. Remind you that map 1, Oregon, went 7-6, a very, very close game to Noble after Mouse were really close to bringing it back. But again, this is new Clubhouse for a lot of people that have not played this since the patch, since Operation Parabellum dropped. Well, you're in for a treat because, at least for me, this is one of my favorite maps to play and watch nowadays. It offers so much, and I want to see more plays of professional teams. And there you go. As you mentioned, target ban on a hard destructor, and that'll be Thermite, the first one eliminated by Noble.
Which is amazing to me because part of the reason why Clubhouse broke previously was Hibana's entrance. By adding Hibana into the game, what they did was they made it so all those variety of hatches upstairs made it so that the defense were given a huge disadvantage, a crushing blow almost. Because think about it. If you're playing Clubhouse before Hibana exists, you've got 3 hatches above you, you've got the church wall, you've got the dirt walls. Thermite only has 2 exothermic charges. You have to pick which of those targets you're going to be using your exothermic charges on, while also factoring in that if you're going to go for like church or dirt, there could be some bandit juggling there, or there could be a mute jammer behind a deployable shield where you have to really work to make those exothermic charges work. So a smart ban from, I think, from Noble, not just to take England off of a comfort pick, but also to make strategies have to revolve around Hibana as an operator too, which by no means is Hibana bad on this map, but the amount of wide walls that exothermic charges just blow wide open.
If we get to to cash, because we've been seeing a lot of cash play. Hibana will be used more as opening up angles, but the windows and garage will be very important for attacks into the server room and cash room. However, when it comes to other sites, like if you're pushing into bedroom, then it doesn't really matter too much which operator you have, the Hibana or the Thermite. Obviously, the Thermite gives you a bit more leeway in having bigger holes to try to rotate players in and out, but the Hibana still works fine. But I think the biggest effect of Hibana, and we've seen this a lot in Season 6 and Season 7, is in other leagues, is that church defense becomes substantially more complicated because you have an angle from the kitchen to look down into the main hallway and cut off rotations, which means blue is even more of an important position to hold as a defense, which, because blue now has a staircase, it is even more difficult to hold than in the past.
And it's funny because the defense downstairs was like, it was the site to go to. Roaming was very difficult. You wouldn't see a lot of teams usually roam because you can drone out clubhouse real fast. You can find where the roamers are. You can punish them. It's going to hurt your defense on the actual site. But the way that they have it set up now with blue, and actually looks like we just saw that dirt is currently unreinforced, which I suppose I would find strange because it's... Oh, never mind. No, it is reinforced. Okay. Never mind. I just saw very briefly the outside, like the birch style walls.
Do I need to take Q and Six now for an IXM?
I have glasses. Oh my! Vertical getting fed some bullets from Crazy playing up in CCTV, and he's looking towards the window from Cash. That's going to be the Zofia, almost gone in 30 seconds. That would have been crippling.
I'll see the Jackal pick. I think a Jackal finally is coming into his own. He's a bit of an underrated operator in my mind, but the best thing about having him here is that he helps you hunt those roamers and have to deal with heavy. There you go. A quick kill from Hyper to dispatch one. They still have to deal with Crazy, who is in construction. You already tell England knows what's up. I'm going to try to find the rotation angle away here. This Crazy will have to walk into his opponent. Oh boy, how close they are. Vandal trying to find shot as he goes in for the reload. That has to be heard, and there you go. Crazy finds it, takes a bit of damage. No problem. If you can rotate away, that is even better, and there you go. Nothing outside of the engagement damage. The refrag will be coming in, but Vertical finds the angle on Crazy as he takes a bit of damage himself, but the advantage definitely in the hands of mousesports here.
That was Vertical getting fed earlier on, getting the final laugh there, as it was the Jaeger trying to work his way through Garage, but a good read from the Zofia just to make sure that there was no way that the Jaeger could get back to site. Of course, losing one of the best guns on defense as well as the carbine that Jaeger uses. So, a good start for mousesports here on attack. We'll see if Clubhouse is going to be as attacker or defender sided. It's going to be intriguing because, of course, it's Echo and Mira that are banned yet again for the defense. But at the same time, I don't think they're as integral to Clubhouse necessarily as Thermite and Glaz are. To me, if the way I'm looking at it, and I could be wrong, my early assessment is with the way these teams play, that it's going to be a very defender-sided contest heading forward, especially as we look towards the way that CCTV and Cash are used, because that has become the breeding ground for new strategies. Yep. Teams have been using a variety of different operators to try and make that site work, a lot of which centered around Amira, who we're not going to see, at least for this matchup, or ever again.
Always positive, as you can tell. It's a professional play dream, we'll call it that. Breezy in the back. Oh no, he turns away just as Vertical peeks in on the Zofia. And Breezy will get taken down. 2v4 now, advantage heavily in the hands of mousesports as Yeti will rotate in back into Moto. Can he find the angle? Yes, he can. What a shot. Quickly looking onto Hyper. Diffuser will get set on the floor. No, Acid will find the kill. And the T5 coming in. Damage will get done. Oh no, the Hibana in the 1v1. And there we go. England will get the final spray with the Bearing 9. That got a bit silly there at the end, but you know what? Ends up going the way of mousesports. And I have to say, this was an excellent round from mousesports, instantly pushing onto their opponents, deleting the roamers off the map, and then coming down very heavily onto the site.
They say it takes two to tango. That was the case. And what we just saw is both of them ran out of ammunition. A bit of a funny moment being paid tribute to by Hyper, of course. It didn't see anything.
The LOL top 10 misplays of professional play of Rainbow Six Siege.
Why do you do these things?
I don't know. I can't stop myself.
You need to stop. It's time to stop.
He's literally holding a huge grandfather's clock right now.
mousesports took control of blue. And then from there, were able to make the rest of their strategy work. They then took control of Church. That's how the plant got one off. And then they were also able to take further control of blue after pinching the roamers, especially with the way that Crazy was playing as a Jaeger. Looked like he'd done a pretty proficient job of managing the clock, killing a lot of time for Mouse. But Mouse ended up getting the kill onto the Jaeger and then were able to push, I mean, I would say pretty unabated at that point, even though Crazy had been able to take somebody from Mouse down. So, I mean, once again, I've been very impressed with the way that Mouse has bounced back after what could have really been a demoralizing start to their first matchup. They have looked like a much better team from here on out, and since this is their map, it makes a lot of sense that they're going to show a lot of confidence on it. And I mean, hey, the attackers won round number 1. I thought that with a Thermite and a Glaz off the board, even with an Echo and a Mira gone for the defense, with the way these teams play and how aggressive they can be, it's not really going to open up a lot of opportunities for the attackers to suffocate the defense the way they want to. I could be wrong, could be proven wrong, depending on the way it shakes out.
All right, Beastly droning in through the strip club. Not going to find anybody in here. And of course, the attack from Mouse will be directed down into Church, as we saw in a previous round. Heavy trying to contest in. It seems like the Noble are really relying on that roam play upstairs. Not sure if this is going to work out this time around, and because they hear the buck dropping in to the office, they'll have to fall back. Very smart from Noble not to overcommit and put too much bodies in position where they would really be pushed up against the wall.
So just patiently waiting exactly in the spot where we would imagine to see a pulse from. Now, with Yeti playing in that back area of the bomb site, that cardiac sensor is going to get full coverage of the kitchen. So you know that if there's somebody there, how many times we've seen somebody run in, try to go for the hatch, and then a C4 will swiftly put an end to any hard breacher that might be playing up there. Though the X-Karos does allow England to play at a safer range. Now, if you're running a Thermite, humorously, you are much more exposed and vulnerable while trying to take care of any of the hard breaching that you need to do because you are immobile for a set period of time, whereas X-Karos, you can take it from a longer range. As well, that cardiac sensor is going to have full control of the main stairs. Yeah. So anybody that's pushing from either of those two directions, kitchen or main stairs, that's information that's going to be relayed to the rest of Noble. And look at this, Blue immediately taken as Heavy just tries to work his way up the stairs, but Vertical is there to greet him, and the mute is vanquished. So Noble will find themselves at a disadvantage with about a minute-ish to go. And that should be good for mousesports, though once again, Vertical taking a lot of damage in the ensuing engagement.
Crazy still playing in the back, and Vertical can be picked up there. I assume that they will be going for him. There's still a decent chunk of time that they can play around with. So far, so good for mousesports. There you go. See Zofia being picked back up. And they might just be pushing down into blue. They have multiple angles to take care of that. You see the attackers setting up, droning in, making sure they have all info and coverage, drone coverage, really, over the site. The Pulse. You mentioned that just a second ago, Parker. There's so much work that is done here by the Pulse, though he's not been able to find a kill with the C4 just yet. And unfortunately, it's England that gets the kill from above, and finally we'll see that kitchen hatch opened up, but there's so little time.
And that it looked like he was trying to aim the C4 in a different direction and just couldn't land it where he needed to. Ends up paying for it. Vandal with another, and this is all Mouse all the time. Breezy gets one, awaiting a push from Blue, looks away at the last second. Breezy picks up another. Can Acid get the Zofia? Yes, Noble strikes back, and in a 1v1 situation as Vandal fells the smoke of Breezy, who picks up a 3-piece. The clock strikes 0. And Noble just simply wins on time alone. What a great bounce back for them in that round. In particular, Breezy, who had a bit of a slow start on Oregon, coming in real huge for Noble this time around. Gets 3 kills, Acid gets 1, and they just need to wait for the clock to hit 0.
Yep, it's one of if not your most valuable resource there.
If you're a defender, the clock is mostly your friend. Yep. Sometimes it can be your greatest enemy, but it's mostly your friend.
Yeah, if you can run it down, and exactly what's the case here, just delaying your opponents for as long as possible, making sure that you have the body advantage, because, hey, you see yourself in a 5v3, you're more likely to push down onto the site and feel comfortable taking gunfights because you have manpower to throw at your opponents. In that case, though, the manpower alone was not enough. And you'll see the 6th pick here onto the Buck and the Valkyrie, as CCTV Cash will be our site, or at least Noble's site here, because they won their defense downstairs in Church and Armory. They'll have to switch away, and Cash has been a cash money site, really, for the defense.
Now that's a reference I can get behind. This is what I speculated, though, about it being defender favorite. Again, let's come back to this. That really shouldn't have been around that Mouse lost.
Yeah.
That should have gone in Mouse's favor. You're in the dying seconds.
You got Hibana?
You've got, all you really need to do was take out one pesky smoke. I know that sounds easy, but that's really all they need to do. Breezy, a great individual performance, but we've seen that from Noble so many times. The amount of times where just one person from Noble steps up really, really big. It's very similar to the way that we see SK Gaming, having played this season in other unspecified leagues, is that SK Gaming have almost always had somebody from the team step up and just take complete control.
Oh, yes.
Breaking double digits, numerous clutches, an ace here or there, a 1vx situation that they win.
Hell, Nyx with literally 3 milliseconds on the clock. I don't get it.
Yeah, the clock looked like it had struck 0, but still on this particular map, Nyx was able to just pop right up and take out Schlongy, who pushed in from Cloud9 in that exact matchup. Oh, Yeti got very close to getting a lucky kill there through the barricaded window, but doesn't find any success whatsoever. But still a good read from the Valkyrie. Just comes up empty-handed.
You know what a lot of teams have been doing recently, Parker? They've been putting one player to play around the bedroom to delay things as long as possible. And, Maestro might not be available to play, at least because Noble not picking him here, but still.
Yeah, he's not banned. It's strange to not see him here. He seems to be quite a big fixture on this side.
The Evil Eyes holding from construction or from bedroom really help a lot. Not just giving you information on your opponents, but also denying those drones. And because you're not bringing a mute, and this site being so small and funneling defenders and attackers alike, it can definitely be a big help for you to take down those drones. You see Acid eating a bit of damage from the grenade, but mainly here what Vandal is trying to do with the support of his teammate holding the back is to take down the batteries in the back, as Acid will set in the shock wire. There were none that are set up earlier on, so oh no, Hyper trying to come in from the side. Acid just peeks in and gets the first kill.
They really need to eliminate this bandit play right here. But we're set up in a position where even though there's over a minute left, this round could be over before it even hits the 30-second mark, depending on the way that these teams play it. Not really in an ideal position to bandit juggle. It does look like Acid will miss, though. Takes a lot of damage from that X-Karos before he has to peel off. You've got somebody from Noble playing in Garage as well. You've got the Pulse of Heavy downstairs, and Yeti still on the roam just by those lounge stairs, watching in towards the electrical room to see who's going to come in to greet him. But he's going to need to focus on watching the Garage. That is going to be his focal point, because the Garage is going to be the next step for the attackers. They have to work their way up the stairs. They have to put pressure on that small window that looks in towards the server stack, because at the moment, England's only got a very small avenue to get in. And it's not going to happen. He's going to be denied entry from Breezy as England tries to worm his way around on the ground and maybe get a good vantage point, as Noble is looking to lock this one down. And the MPX doesn't do a lot of damage, but Yeti is there to throw it. Vandal vertical takes out Heavy, and Yeti will miss most of his shots, actually land a couple, but very minimal damage done to him.
Yeah, Beastly coming in, vertical from the back, finding the kill on a Yeti. And he just moves in. The C4 is going to get timed, and the attackers have to move in so slowly. Acid gets one, and Crazy with the second as he watches the backstairs. mousesports will get taken down. Noble, pretty darn good defense there at the end. mousesports trying to play around their opponent's defense, but I think the biggest part of it is that when the Buck came up the stairs earlier on in the round to contest the Bandit, pushed in way too much instead of holding in the pixel angle that you have on the stairs and just lobbing shots. You not only lost a player in the Buck, but you also lost grenades that could have been a big help to combo with the sledge.
To be fair to him, though, that wall was open that separates from the top of the stairs into cash. If he had just tried to hold the pixel angle there, there's a possibility that one of the defenders could have worked their way into that construction room and possibly seen the buck, at which point he could have possibly been pinched. So, I mean, it makes sense as to why he pushed, but I agree with you. I think it was a bit too aggressive, and especially to do that non-ADS'd. Not aiming down your sights, not training that barrel onto where the bandit is going to peek from. Hyper just looked like he was trying to get there in a real hurry, and I mean, you're not winning any races here. You need to make sure that you're eliminating your opponents. He wasn't able to do that. It was a good read from the bandit to pop up the way he did. I'm very surprised that it turned out the way it did, because you saw that Hibana was playing on the reinforced wall. You had a Zofia as well as a sledge placed directly on the other side of the wall, looking through that open window, trying to get the grenades. They burned the ADSs. That's exactly what Zofia did. The grenade on acid missed. Usually we will see a team possibly go for a pick, which was the Jaeger who was playing watching the window, get that pick, and then just get into the site. But Mouse were really slow to get control of Garage. They never even got control of Garage because Yeti was there in the final 20 seconds. A bit of a sloppy play from Mouse. They really looked listless, they looked lost, and then they weren't able to make the transition happen to get into the stage where they needed to execute on their plan, and England ended up just by himself over by that wall. He got picked off.
One thing I just want to add to all of that is Noble's ban of the Thermite plays perfectly into this. And for me, it is the biggest part of their victory in that previous round. Just planning everything way, way before it actually happens. And there go the FAMAS getting the first kill on Acid. Not sure where the Maestro was, but I guess that'll be the first free entry kill for mousesports as Breezy's playing on the bed. He is relying on Yeti and Crazy on the opposite side to give him time, and you see the castle barricades will slow down the attackers in clearing up cache and server.
Yeah, that's really not great to lose the Maestro, because little do people know, but when Maestro dies, those evil eyes are stuck in the position that you die at. So, I mean, a little bit of a strategic tip is aim your evil eyes. If you're not going to use them, aim them in a direction where you can at least get a pretty good field of view as to what's happening, because if you die and it's looking at a wall, it's almost completely useless. So I'm assuming what the Maestro was doing was playing in the shower with an ADS there. We saw as well very briefly that there was an ADS position. Second kill of the round is going to go to Vandal. He nades out Crazy. The Jaeger completely gone playing inside a cache. So Mouse doing an excellent job trying to put a lot of pressure onto the site while also making sure that the people playing off-site are picked off too.
All right, Yeti sending up his Breezy, even opening up a bit of an angle for the defenders to play around with.
A bomb has been located.
And it's sometimes a bit risky to leave the wall soft from construction, but with the amount of time that's been burned off, it's all right for Noble. They have to just funnel in the attackers into maybe the gym, into the bedroom. But for me, gym seems a lot safer of a position to push into, as safe as really it can get with such an open site in general, especially when you have that two-man advantage.
Yeti's going to get the very first kill for the defense. The UMP will tear through Vandal, and the sledge gone. Grenades also gone, as you'd seen that had been one used earlier. Wasn't sure if he got anything with his second, but could potentially have been one frag that would be going unused. Right now, the Legion of Heavy playing inside a bathroom with an open wall with that castle barricade perfectly hit, so at any point he can spring into action through gym room, just waiting to see if there's going to be anybody trained on it. However, all those punch holes are visible from both sides, and you could see Mouse spotting it and knowing that at any moment somebody could possibly push in. All they need to do is bait heavy, and perfect. Look at that. Great execution from Mouse, but Breezy is there. He jumps right in with the SMG, throws down the Toxic Babe, and pulls out the shotgun. A second for Breezy. Yeti joins the fun, and Vertical is last man standing, tasked with fetching that diffuser, but he'll be getting pinged. Breezy closing things out. What a great game so far for the smoke of Breezy, who has looked as sharp as ever. And good coordination. Once again, the defense making big strides. It's 3-1 in favor of your defenders. Noble.
Now, Clubhouse still a fairly defender-favored map, especially the fact that the Thermite is banned, in my opinion. I think it's a huge, huge ban, even bigger than removing the Hibana. So I would like to see Noble going for a 4-1. It'll give them a big advantage. But also, I think they should be getting that 4-1, looking at their plays, but also because the operator bans really, in my mind, went the way of the defense. Everything was planned around that. They knew that they were starting off on that defender's side and try to play their advantage for as long as possible.
Yeah. And once again, we really can't underscore the thermite ban and how big it works with this map in particular, especially that CCTV, and then of course looking upstairs. Both of the upstairs sites, you really rely on having a thermite to give you that big open space to get in, because not only does that Hibana hole work, not only does that Hibana hole work in a way for you to get in, but it really, more than anything, it makes it so narrow for you to get into the site that it's very easy for you to just get completely destroyed as you try to work your way in through. That's exactly what happened to England when they were attacking CCTV. Mouse were trying to work their way in through the small hole that they had, and all they needed to do was just simply watch the hole. That was it. So, we're going to go to the final round of our first split with Noble once again in excellent position. Now, on Oregon, Noble was up 3-1. They won the final one. They ended up going up 4-1 in your first split before it switched sides. But, as we all know, that didn't really mean all that much because Mouse was able to answer back. How well is that going to work this time around? Well, there's probably a high likelihood of that. If the theory that the defense are in excellent position round after round after round, then for Mouse, it should be the same thing. It really could come down to 1 or 2 lucky attacking rounds or well-planned attacking rounds to make all the difference in whether we go to a third map or whether Noble ends up going to the finals by vanquishing Mouse.
Yeah, and seeing as how map 1 went through, I would definitely not count mousesports out until the very, very end. We'll see. If mousesports can secure this second round here on the board on their attacking side, I would definitely give them an advantage heading into the second half, but it's up to England and the squad here to push in. Bit of time burned away as finally we'll see the Hibana and the squad at least try to take control of those early positions. You've got your standard checklist as the Hibana, the hatch in blue, the hatch in bar, and of course the hatch in kitchen. Finally, if you end up being able to go for it, but a smart position from Noble here, trying to use blue to their advantage in the stairs, but what is that? 2 kills for free for Vertical! What? What are you doing?
Yeti decides to silence his phone rather than have to take out the Zofia, and you lose both the Vigil as well as your Jaeger.
These millennials always on their phones.
Just inside of the garage storage right there, goes onto his drone. As that's an excellent play from Vertical. Breezy, who was the superstar last time around on this site, a big 3-piece for him in the dying seconds of the round. And Heavy is going to at least try to narrow that gap a little bit as Vertical is taken out as the Zofia tried to push into garage, but Heavy was there. And with the MPX, just took off her head. So at least Noble doesn't get, too far behind out of that. They get something.
Yeah, but obviously the Zofia is a big pick because of the utility, but she's already done her job. That's 2 kills for the Zofia, and it makes the push into blue a lot easier for the attackers. And of course, it's a linchpin of your attack. You need to take control of it to cut off rotations and also try to push to either church or armory.
But one big thing that's going to be missing from this push are those 4 concussive blasts. You can't lock down the defense the same way now because you don't have that option, and it looked like Hyper, who was positioned on blue stairs to come down as well, is now going to have to rotate because he knows that there's no way for him to safely enter without somebody there to contest him. Noble in the final 15 seconds at the moment will try to train all of their sights on the doorways of where the entry can come from. Using the hatches above, you can see England ready to drop at any moment, and there the drop will come. The Legion just firing in blindly into the smoke, but there's Beastly there to take him out. Acid will get one as he tries to push in for another, but no, Vandal will greet him. It's Heavy, last man standing. C4 explodes, but right now it's in vain. He'll take out England, know with the marks that there's another there waiting, but has to cover too many angles, and Vandal will ensure that this first split will not go as lopsided as it did on Oregon. Mouse taking 2 of the 5 rounds, and now they'll go to defense, hoping that their fortune's a little bit better than Noble's.
Yeah, I can see this either going the way of Mouse or just being able to force it in overtime. Really getting these 2 rounds with a thermite ban is an impressive feat on its own. And that final push, I want to attribute it especially to the fact that the Zofia just got those 2 kills for free early on in the round. But the push at the end for Mouse was very well coordinated. It worked very well. It's smashing through the defense, or at least what was left of it there. And Noble, the smokes were correctly positioned. It forced the Legion to run away from the site before trying to run on in. By that time, his opponents had just secured Church, and we talked about it. Blue pushing into Church or into Armory gives you so much leeway as the attacker because you can rotate in wherever you want. You that entire area is set up for rotations for the defense anyways, but if you take control of it, you gain that huge advantage.
Blue was, at least at one point, a situation where as long as you could hold the hatch from above, you only had to fear a push from Garage. Now you have to fear a push from that electrical room, or what was called electrical to storage room. It's now, I believe, called like garage storage, I believe is what it's called. You have to watch the hatch from above you, and you have to watch the push from Garage. Now, given the fact that Thermite is probably going to be banned most times on this map, at least by teams that know that their opponents run it quite frequently, Hibana needs to figure out where those 3 XK roasts are going to go. You know, usually the 3 hatches are as good as in any place to do it, but there's some wisdom that teams will take out the kitchen hatch and then reserve 2 rounds for also taking out the church wall.
Yeah.
Because you know that 1 round of Xkeros isn't enough to really get through unless it's on the ground, and you go belly in, crawling on all fours, which is very, very risky. So you can hold Blue through the hatch, but you still then have to worry about those stairs and the garage. That's why I think we see a lot of teams not holding Blue anymore, but shooting out that 1 wall into Blue and then watching it from Church.
Yeah, one thing you have to keep in mind as well if you're holding into Blue is that there's a couple angles that you can use from the top of the Blue stairs to look down into the back of Blue, but also into Church from it. So that's why you see a lot of glass bands as well. But a Zofia with an ACOG is more than enough to do a lot of work there in the back. So that's why you see a lot of contention around Blue, because it really gives the attackers a big advantage, like cutting off rotations, similar to the kitchen. And oh boy, grenade is going to get missed here by Yeti early on.
Now let's think it might be the second time that Yeti has just overthrown his projectile, not quite getting the arc down where he needed. It looked like the first time around with that C4 that was aimed onto England in the garage, but couldn't make it work. Now Yeti going with the frag grenade and missing a second time around. And it's gonna take me a while to see IQ on there and not think that she has frag grenades, by the way. So also intriguing that it has severely hurt her pick rate, at least in this matchup between these 2 teams. I think Vertical was running IQ almost exclusively, but now instead opting for the Zofia. First kill is gonna go to Vandal onto Heavy.
Yeah, Heavy trying to move in from the side, gets picked off. I don't know if there were any drones or anything to support him in that position, but it seems like an odd position for him to head into early on. Yeti taking damage from the side of his cross. So the Typer, of course, watching the angle. The drone will come in, and there's also Vertical to help with this. So the Vigil, although you can't use him as you could before with much longer timer on the ERC, still 12 seconds if timed correctly with information can do so much damage against the attackers on the rotation. You see the Bandit will be sending up here to take down any pellets, and there's no X-Kairos left.
Noble does look like right now they're struggling to transition into their execute, and then they really need to get everything in a row or else they'll get picked apart, and that's exactly what's going to continue to happen. Right now, Yeti in Garage will get dispatched as Vandal and Vertical have found a kill. Hyper will jump in, and Breezy literally jumping in right into the waiting arms of Beastly, who with that SMG-11 will finish off the round flawless for Mouse on their first defense. 5 kills, 0 deaths. Great start for them as they'll lock down CCTV and remove it from their rotation for at least 2 more rounds.
And that's why. Thermite ban, you need at least 4 rounds at the end of it. And now Noble are kind of... they're getting a taste out of their own medicine, to say the least.
Well, this once again plays into the fact that we assume that this is going to go heavily in favor of the defense. And that's exactly what, I mean, it's really looked like so far. 2 attacking victories, 4 defensive round victories, the complete opposite of Oregon, which was just such an attacker-sided affair. And I think that also really speaks to the way that the map plays with the bans in particular. So.
All right, we'll be heading into gym and bedroom and castle bandit. I love seeing this. I assume we're going to stick to it. There we go. The Jaeger, I assume, will be bringing a deployable shield as well. This is heavy into the defense on the gym side and in the hallway. We call it the hallway of death.
We've often seen somebody playing with the deployable shield over where Wet Meat or England is. Once again, I'd like to, if you're just tuning into the broadcast, wondering why we keep saying England, Wet Meat was it's formerly known as England, who played for Counter Logic Gaming as well as Elevate. And he's no stranger to these group of guys. Of course, the vast majority of the people playing on mouse came from Xbox. You know, they were once known as Infamy. CLG was once known as Elevate, and they had a pretty storied rivalry on console. So, I mean, it makes sense that he would know and you know, be familiar with it. So.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of which, last week we did have some ex-console players with some PS4 players signing up, at least back in the day, and coming in. They had a decent showing, and again, another part of playing in the US Nationals is to show off your level of skill, and maybe either the whole team gets picked up or some players really are able to show their skills and move on to even higher tiers of professional play.
Yeah, I mean, because there's so many different leagues, amateur leagues, other, you know, non-specific and unidentified leagues, that when the US Nationals is all wrapped up or a team is eliminated, they have an opportunity to potentially play elsewhere and use that synergy and all that they've learned, possibly from this play in particular. First EE1D or EOD will go off. It'll freeze everybody in place and give Noble an opportunity to try and put some pressure on Uncontested. Onto the sites. You can see that was the Zofia there just for a second, as Heavy is trying to draw out one member of Mouse, but there's nobody that's looking to take the bait, at least for the time being. But the Vigil's going to get very aggressive as Hyper tags in a good 2-for-1. As Mouse opens up the scoring with Yeti down, the Buck eliminated, and that is a bit of a breath of fresh air for Mouse, as they don't really need to worry about what damage that skeleton key will do. In the meantime, though, they have lost control of the wall into CCTV. Great job from Crazy to open that up, and we'll give them a long viewpoint in. However, that's not where the site is. So you don't need to worry too much about exactly how they're going to work their way in. Hyper holding a very fine pixel angle underneath that metal reinforcement on the stairs. Crazy will go for the flash and try to bait out the Vigil, but won't know exactly where he is. He'll manage to take down Vertical, but there's another playing in Garage. Breezy will push up. They are all concussed, but Breezy will still come away with the kill, and Noble is just barnstorming right now, working their way to the doorway of Master Bedroom. They'll go to Drone, as England right now will be the spearhead of this defense, watching the main doorway from construction. Well, about a minute to go. So if I'm mousesports, yeah, you are right now in pretty rough shape. Noble doing a great job of time management, working quickly and very efficiently. As you can see, they have two bodies lined up, staring all the way into Master Bedroom. Right now, currently at a stalemate though, 3-3. The castle will peek out, and that is ill-advised as England falls to Breezy and Noble, giving a good opportunity for them to take their first attacking round victory. Final EOD going off, and Acid looking to see if he can see the head of the Jaeger. He does! Oh, a great shot! Hyper down, and Beastly, as the smoke, will need to have a very impressive clutch. The SMG-11 with not that large of a magazine will empty it and switch to the shotgun. Have to work his way up. He'll take out Breezy, sees Crazy. Can he get him as well? Crazy will go prone. Beastly just switching between weapons, but no, Crazy is there, and the Bearing 9 comes out to take that close-range engagement. Noble will get on the board on the second split. It's not just going to be all Mouse this time around, and we're in a position now where we could conceivably go into overtime depending on the way things work, but Noble still only needs 2 more rounds for them to be able to clinch their position at the US Nationals LAN. Now, a couple things that went on there as I continue my lengthy monologue for all of you is that the focus of Mouse was split up. They put a lot of bodies playing off-site. It was a great tag-in effort, as we saw as Hyper played on the back of the stairs, but I don't think they were expecting Noble to reinvest a second body to double up on Mouse's defense that late into the round. And that's what I said about clock management and time management, was that it was a minute 30 left to go, and Noble just swept right in, picked up 2 kills, and then they had full control of the second floor except for the sights. And that's exactly what they needed. And then they were able to just use that and continue rolling and push in from that point onward. So for Noble, that was a great pace for them to set, and that really looked like a strong outing for them on attack. This is going to allow Mouse, though, however, to go back downstairs. And for Mouse, this is a do or die round. If I'm Mouse, if you lose this round, I'm in a lot of trouble, because at that point, you can't win outright. You're going to have to go to overtime, and then it becomes a coin flip over, do we defend twice? Do we attack twice? How does it work? So even though statistically this isn't a do or die round, they're still very much in it. If Mouse loses, I'm thinking to myself, if I'm Mouse, you gotta win. So we'll see how exactly it shakes out for Noble. They're running a pretty similar composition to what we saw last time around. Mouse is going to have a lot of tools at their disposal. I don't know if we're going to see any investment in dirt. Usually you would see a lengthy amount of time spent in dirt, possibly from a smoke, possibly from a Jaeger, laying down some barbed wire. But because there's no thermite, most teams are not going to run a Blitz or a Monty to really take control of dirt. It also means that we're likely not going to see a Blackbeard as limited times as we do to escort down the dirt tunnel. And of course, that means that Noble's attack is going to have to come from elsewhere. That's why we've seen such a big, strong focus on Kitchen. It's why we've seen a focus on pushing in through Blue. And Blue has really been the place for the attackers because, as previously mentioned, the addition of that stairwell has made it much more difficult for the defenders to hold Blue successfully. Usually you'll maybe see them get a pick and then fall off and then try to engage on anybody from Blue through Church, or possibly even through those ammo boxes downstairs in the basement. First minute burned off right now, and there's really been no tussling nor no engagements whatsoever from either of these teams. Noble have worked their way into Garage, sitting down a typical Claymore spot. Vertical and Hyper both positioned on those blue stairs. Now this is very interesting, because they're going to get droned out here, but no, they've fallen off quite a bit. Acid will spot one, Yeti has worked up, and you can hear those X-Kairos go likely onto that blue hatch, meaning that Blue is going to have to evacuate. Yeti playing a very good angle. For those that don't know, that angle, of course, is available to you. A nice long sightline all the way back into Blue. The Ella just sitting behind that metal reinforcement. It's possibly an engine or a generator, so to speak. But look at the clock right now. A minute 30 gone. Noble will lose its first as Crazy pushes up, but Vertical, unchallenged, will get the kill. A grenade goes down. It'll claim Hyper, ironically taking out the Jaeger, but the Ella will still hang on, and Vertical, losing some life, manages to walk away, killing the Hibana. But at this point, the Hibana has probably done her job. You don't really need to worry about the utility, but the fragging potential that you see from both the Bearing as well as that Type 89.
Yeah, there's a grenade in play here from Yeti if need be. So that can be used. The line being put in play as well would be more than enough to freeze those defenders in position. So that it can be a huge boon to that attack side.
Grenade waiting to get tossed in from Yeti. He'll think otherwise, though, as he had a perfect opportunity had he not hesitated to get the kill. But oh, there we go. Beastly will just ragdoll. Vertical gets his second on the Breezy, and it's just 20 seconds left. But we right now are in a position where one kill is going to make all the difference. The Pulse gives himself away. He'll feed himself into Acid. That's England gone. Vertical, a third. Vandal with one will deny Vertical the ace, but Mouse in striking position. It's all up to Heavy, but no, Vandal with another, and Mouse will tie things up. I said this was a do or die round, and well, Mouse won't die. They're going to tie it up 4-4, putting us in great position to go to overtime. But man, you could tell if Noble had won that round, that could have been it for this matchup.
It would have very much put them on that map and match point. Right now, Noble will be going for that IQ as mousesports go back, CCTV and cash, and this really ties even more into the defense. So I wonder how Noble will try to break this one. I really think that Thermite ban is starting to backfire on them, the fact that they couldn't get as many rounds as they probably would have wanted to take when they were on the defense side.
Well, I would imagine that as Mouse, you're confident in picking Clubhouse. You're almost assured that there's going to be a Thermite ban. for a number of reasons. It's like playing Border without banning Thermite. It's going to happen. It's like trying to go into Oregon with a Mira strategy, assuming that she's not going to get banned.
It's not going to happen.
It's like trying to play this game at any level and expecting Mira not to be banned. It's just going to happen, okay? You're going to have Mira banned. It's the way it works now. Goodbye, Mira.
We know it doesn't exist.
She doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, sure. You don't have operator bans in casual or ranked, but she gets banned anyways.
she's just been removed. She's been excised from the game. She's gone. Goodbye, Mira.
Goodbye, sweet princess.
But if I'm mousesports, I'm coming into this expecting to know how to play this map with a Thermite ban in place. They're confident enough to pick it as their map choice. They're probably prepared to play without Mira. They're probably prepared to play without Thermite. And I'd also wager they're probably prepared to play without Hibana, just in case something wonky happens and Hibana ends up getting banned here. So, I mean, yes, I understand why Thermite got played, but if I'm Mouse and I'm picking a map, or if I'm any team and I'm picking a map, there's a lot of thought process that goes into a map ban. Number one, your comfortability playing on that map, your opponent's discomfort with playing on that map, and then your strategies, how deep do they go? Because if you're trying to play a map and you know that they're going to target ban an operator that you need, well, that's going into my thought process when I'm choosing which maps to ban.
Yeah, and keep in mind that you know that this matchup is going to happen a week ahead of time. So the preparation is very much key. And, well, this is only map 2, so we can see a map 3. And honestly, I would very much be looking forward to a bank. Kind of want to see how a match between two teams like this would play out on such a third map. But again, mousesports are, of course, on the defense. As Crazy will start opening things up, but he's got to deal with a bandit on the other side.
So this is where we saw Mouse routinely stall out, as they have this problem trying to take care of the bandit. And every time that they invest heavily in eliminating the bandit, well, they end up losing a body or two. But Noble does appear to be much more successful this time around. Yeti underneath is just going to open up the bottom of that site and cause continuous problems for those defenders, forcing them to scramble as their footing is taken away from them. That's great for Noble, who are looking to try and put this away in the second map. But you can see that with 2x Kairos remaining, the call's been made for the rotate. They have abandoned that wall, and Crazy is going to move in a completely different direction.
All right, that's first kill from the bandit, actually just peeking in on the IQ, gets the kill from above. So trying to outsmart the defenders with a play from below, combination with the buck, does not work well for Noble. And the advantage early on for mousesports, you see Heavy trying to move in. The X-Kairos will be set on the side of the wall, and they will actually bow out. And Noble, that'll have a walk into cash room, an extra angle, and even more being set up from below as Yeti is trying to deal with his opponents on the rotation. Last grenade is going to get lobbed in, and again, Yeti unable to land it.
It's a tough shot to make for a lot of players with the way that those beams work and the inconsistency with the actual reticle when you're trying to throw your grenade. So I can kind of understand the position he's at right now. For the time being, a construction push is where it's coming from. Beastly is there with the smoke grenade playing point. The Rook is also going to be having his MP5 looking all the way down. The first encounter as Yeti works his way up the stairs. Hyper takes out one, but Yeti is there to take out England. Hyper gets a second. That's the strength of that ACOG, but they are running out of time. Yeti gets another kill, but he's going to have to plant, and he's going to rely on Acid from cutting off a possible rotate, but Vandal will shut it down as the Bandit sends the C4 flying, and that's all it takes. We don't get to see, unfortunately, the C4 go off, but claims Yeti, who just had a fraction of his health left. So did Acid, for that matter. So Mouse should have really been able to close that one out, and that's exactly what they did. It's also put them on match point, and if I recall correctly, this is the first lead that Mouse has had so far this entire game. I could be wrong, but pretty sure that Mouse has now taken their very first lead, and they do it on what could have been the penultimate round, setting us up for map number 3, should Mouse prevail.
All right. See how this plays out, because honestly, I can still see Noble tying it up, but not with the way that they've been making those small mistakes. I mean, it's not a usual thing that you'll see me saying this, but I have to criticize Yeti's plays there with the buck. Sure, the actual angles to throw in the grenades are a bit complicated, in that position as well from below. But when you're spending that much time on the setup, you need something to really go your way. And there hasn't really been much that has gone the way of Noble in that defensive top stairs. And you know what? This time we'll head to the bar, which has kind of been a mixed bag of a site, as we have not seen much of it so far. It's been back and forth. We've seen a lot of teams even leaving that center soft wall, basically just leaving it soft, and you can use that to your advantage. You can basically try to mind game your opponents by keeping it soft. So roam game is still very, very strong, and that's why you see the alibi being picked up as well.
The changes on Clubhouse took bar from being bar stock, from being the second most serviceable site to the least played so far that we've seen, at least here and in other unspecified leagues. So because of this, we don't exactly have the largest sample size to go off of. We haven't seen enough, especially in the U.S. Nationals play. We certainly have not seen enough from these teams here. So it does appear that we're going to have to, it does appear that we're going to have to try and get some kind of possible info, but it does appear that we're going to go up for a rehost. So if that's the case, then we will... So that's exactly what's going to happen. So just a bit of a spectator bug going on there for Yeti. Unfortunately, unable for him to move. But the beauty is that we now have rehost controls that have been added to the game. So we can go back with the same bans. We can go back with the same count. But rough for Mouse.
Yes.
They are on the cusp of knocking Noble to a third game on which we go to bank, which is what we both wanted to see.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, possibly blunting their momentum. We've seen that happen before, where rehosts have kind of evened things out when a team feels really, really hot. But at the same time, I'm pretty confident in saying that I don't think that this is Noble on a downswing. I don't think Noble is on their heels. I just think it's been a nature of the way that the bans work. I think it's been the way that the teams have been playing. Noble has been playing well, but it's, they're trying to swim against the current, which is that the current is the defense is probably going to win.
Yeah. And this is, if we compare this to other maps, like for example, Coastline, famously being seen as a map where if you're getting anything less than 3 or 4 rounds on the attack, you're really not.
You're in bad shape.
Yeah, you're in bad shape. It just happens, and obviously having these operators banned, especially Thermite, kind of compiles on top of everything, making the map even more skewed towards the defensive side. So it's just, you have to kind of adapt with it, but also when you're playing on the defensive side, you have to make sure that you get as many rounds as possible. And as I mentioned it like 3 times at this point, those 3 rounds that were picked up by Noble on the defensive side, not enough in my opinion.
I mean, you're being handed a significant advantage, right?
Everything's
you're
coming up Noble.
You're starting on defense. Noble gets 3 in the first split to 2 for Mouse. You need to run that score up. You got to do it, or else you find yourself in a position where Mouse could walk away, with a 4-1. It doesn't really matter what they did in the previous split, because they have been able to capitalize so well on the opportunities and advantages they've been given. You've got right now a map that on most sites is already somewhat tilted towards defender-sided, and then is exacerbated by the fact that a Thermite is gone, by the fact that a Glass is gone. You could say that, a Ying is gone. Maybe you're dealing with, another operator on attack that also helps. On defense, there's really no one operator that I can see being so integral to the way that Clubhouse works. Maybe a Maestro, but I mean, they banned an Echo and they banned a Mira. So
it's all right.
You're looking at
out.
I know you're looking at a situation where it's a map where a number of sites are already quite defender-sided, and that's only been increased by the fact that you've taken out the offense's most powerful weapon, which was a Thermite on this map.
Yeah, and really that Thermite ban, really to hammer it home, it was the most important thing. And that's the thing. We're talking about this with the introduction of the ban phase of operators, and we've been seeing threads here and there around the subject. I think it's shaken up the meta quite a bit. There hasn't been a lot of teams that have been able to use it really to their advantage, but the ones that have, oh my god, they've had such a huge advantage against their opponents, because not only are you looking at target bans, but you're also looking at map-specific, site-specific, and site-specific.
I mean, we've seen target bans being done on certain players' operators, and one thing is a good example of this. Vandal used to almost exclusively play Ying on attack. We saw that the chaos that he could cause with those 3 Candelas, with her newly, or not, I guess technically newly, but her buffed LMG, that thing, the way how hard that LMG hits now. It coupled up with it, you would see that a lot of Mouse's strategies would involve sending the Candelas in, having Hyper run in alongside Vandal, and just everything dying. And teams started to realize that, hey, we can actually just start banning Ying. And for a while there, in other leagues, Vandal was not playing to the same ability that we'd seen because they had to reinvent their strategies, because Vandal had to play operators that he might not have been the most comfortable on. Taking Thermite out of the action and possibly taking Hibana's out of the action too for certain teams that used to have sole Hibana players, it can prove to be, a fatal blow before the game even starts. And I think that what it has done is not just make for more diversity of strats, but it's expanded every single player's operator pool as well.
Exactly.
Because if you were a one-dimensional player, if you're just an Ashe Jaeger main, well, I mean, they're not going to get banned, but you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying. If you only play 1 or 2 operators, it's very easy to just target you and completely remove you from the equation and hinder your team to where it's almost like playing a 4v5 because you're playing an operator you're not comfortable with.
Yeah, this is something that I was able to talk to Canadian about, and we were talking to EG about, we've been seeing like different players on different operators. Why is that from your point of view? It's like, not only do we want to switch things around, but we also don't want to fall victim to being an easy to figure out teams in terms of their operator picks. Want to be flexible. There's teams in other regions as well that are very flexible. They'll put pretty much any player on any operator, no matter the site, and they'll always make it happen. But we are back from our rehost, as all of our settings have been dialed in. Thank you very much, Marcio. What a great observer. And we head into our potential map point, as Mouse are looking to bring it to map number 3.
If it's not match point, and we don't see a victory here, we obviously have overtime awaiting us, which means a guaranteed 2 more rounds to send us to the 3rd map. I always thought that this was going to go to the 3rd map. Prove me wrong, Noble. But we still have another game to go between Disrupt and Space Station Gaming. I don't know if that matchup in particular is going to be as close as this one. I think this was the marquee match in terms of teams trading blows. No. I think there's a very high likelihood in that second game that we could see a 2-0 that could go quite in favor, depending on how the teams show up for the matchup in particular. Disrupt has been getting better as time goes on. They were very briefly known as Bittersweet a couple weeks ago before getting picked up by Disrupt for the U.S. Nationals, and have performed quite well so far. So excellent to see them compete. The they have Brad Remorse Hickey, or Brad Hickey, playing on the team, and we've been trying to hashtag get Brad to LAN because, well, I mean, I'd like to see him at a LAN, but we still got a match to go. And we have another rehost. Unfortunately, another glitch will bring us back here, and we'll get it sorted out before we go back in.
I think it's a bit of a ping issue. We'll get that fixed.
It'll be fixed
in the lobby. No problem.
Now, heading to Bank, let's theorize that Mouse ends up sticking this one out. They win the defensive round. They're right now being handed the advantage. They pull through on defense. No reason to suspect that they wouldn't, given the way that the team has played on defense so far. Now, let's say that they go the full mile. They go to D. They go, they win in overtime, or they win in match point, etc. We go to Bank. You thought that it would benefit Mouse to go to Bank.
Yeah.
Why did you say that?
So you mentioned early on different styles of play. For me, and for a lot of people out there, knowing quite a bit about Mouse, they're a very technical team. They have the skill, definitely, but I think their technical setups are very intriguing. I kind of want to put a bit of that as well on their coach, helping them out more success, of course. So Bank is that map where roaming can benefit you. However, it is not always your main strategy. You still require a hard anchor on the site, especially, as you mentioned early on, the default set for you to go for is CCTV/security downstairs.
Yes.
It's your main site. And most teams are kind of practiced at this point with not having a Mira to play with. So you set up your defense over there. There's a few different ways to use roaming operators, like an Ella or a Vigil, for example, to contest your opponents whilst they're coming into the server. The way that you're setting up in your defense, holding off in the white stairs, that can definitely be something that we'll see played by mousesports. Those stairs are extremely powerful for the defense if used in combination with certain operators and certain utility on there. It slows down your opponent. That time game might very much go the way of mousesports, seeing as even on Clubhouse, Noble have had a few rounds where they've run out of, for me, the most important of all resources, which is your time.
Yes.
And it can very much come back to bite them here. And also, we've seen some successful open area defenses, even though it hasn't always been the case. But I would assume at least mousesports would be a team that has a few of these. Now, I was speaking to now Team Secret, and Leon was explaining to me open area defense in his mindset. Right. And for him, as long as there's no Mira available to play, you have to play off of the site. But playing off of the site doesn't mean that you can just stay there all the time. You have to know when to rotate back on it. And timing-wise, on that site fallback, so far has been going the way of mousesports. They had a shaky start early on in Oregon.
Right.
But they brought it back, and the fact that they're able to get into the groove and not fall back in that aspect, that so important anchor aspect on the site, I think very much benefits them if we indeed get to go to a bank, to third map. It does require Mouse to take it either right now in this round or in overtime. Now, the site we'll come back to, however, on Clubhouse, or second map, is going to be Bar, which is a site that we rarely see. It's your least played site nowadays, as you mentioned. Before, right, it was your second played site. Now, with the changes in Clubhouse, no longer the case. There's some very interesting strategies to go in there. We used to see a lot of ACOG play. Echo's not available here, but Maestro can definitely do a lot of work. We've seen players like Foxay, for example, do a decent chunk of damage with the Setme, with the ACOG, of course, just able to contest your opponents. Glass is banned, though. So maybe we'll see shield play to push in. There's so many ways of still playing around it on the attack, on the defense, but our game is ready. Let's head in.
A lot of theorizing goes into it, and no shield play unless you count the Blackbeard, which I know some people do. So for Noble, we will have the Blackbeard there available to them. But interesting that Bar and Stock will go. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but the attackers are not capable of going with a potentially different pick. They have to go with what they had repeatedly. Both teams have to go with what they know and what they had, which means that no smokes available for Noble on a Bar Stock take is going to be a bit of a pain.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate thing. They are locked to only Habana, as of course the Thermite is not available for play, as you can see by him being the first operator grayed out in the ban phase. So a push in from Strip is unlikely with the setup, but you can also see the Hibana being used to take control of the top floor. I think at this point this is very similar to Villa. When you attack Villa, you almost always take control of the bedroom because it gives you a huge piece of map control. Similar thing here, if you want to push into Clubhouse, take control of cache. It's a huge part as well of your attack, and the Buck definitely leans more towards that sort of thing.
I don't know if Noble was expecting this site. I don't think they were. I mean, it's very difficult for us to discern what they were trying to prepare for because we can't access team comps. It's very similar to why sometimes somebody will fall off of holding an angle when it seems very unreasonable for them to do that at the time. Well, it's because it could be that they have a different call. They could have, different info, etc. But I'm intrigued to see the way that this is going to work because you can't really have any pressure from below. You really only need to work from above. Now, that bailiff that we see being run on Alibi is exceptional at destruction. You can use it also to help enable you to make rotate holes if you need one without, the AA-12 is the shotgun that's available for the Italian operators. And I mean, I think it's got a place, but that place is not at this level of play or in other unspecified leagues. So we're going to see how that bailiff can work in a pinch. Yeti working his way in through Garage, though, is in a position where he's going to greet Hyper. Now, this is the same angle that we saw Hyper play last time around, and Vertical is up there with him, too. This is exactly what Mouse did last time around when they were defending inside a Master, except they're now doing it when they're defending bar stock. And it's really going to be incumbent upon both Crazy and Yeti to try to push them out of the way. The Skeleton Key is going to use that soft wall as an opening for the attackers to work their way in. Crazy has also gotten those 2 reinforced walls, and this could be potentially problematic for Mouse in the way that they play this. It looks like they've fallen off just a touch into CCTV, but now another line of sight opened up from Yeti as he's going to play around this server rack here with all the different monitors on it. He's going to take Vertical down, looking for another head to just pop up. But the Jaeger looks like he'll get away. Yeti missing.
Unfortunate there, as Hyper will fall back from the stairs into the storage, and Hyper getting the shot on Acid as he runs away. A big kill here, still on the Lion. Of course, removing the V308, but also the so important E1Ds that have been so efficient at stopping the defenders and putting them really on their heels whenever they get popped heavy on the Blackbeard. And I wonder, is he using an SR25? Yes, he is.
He is.
Good.
So the assault rifle, the Scar, has been buffed as of late. We've actually seen a number of different players favor that assault rifle now, as the SR25 was also nerfed. Whoa,
oh my
heavy
God.
catch. He shoots that Toxic Babe out of the air. That's much easier to do on land, harder to do, but he will miss the second one around. So that clocks, what do they say? Even a broken clock is right twice a day. Well, I mean, he'll be right once a day as he's able to take out that first Toxic Babe. But he's going to be held at bay right now. Breezy will walk in. He takes out England. And here comes the chaos.
Little time left as Hyper gets one, but kills in a row here for Noble. They have to set the diffuser down, and Hyper might have just won the round here, but no, he falls back down, and the diffuser will get set. They have info on Hyper. He'll try to push in from the back. All he needs to do is to deny the diffuser, and Yeti will get the kill. That is a round win for Noble as they take it into overtime on a 5-5 scoreline.
Absolutely remarkable that Hyper falling through. If I recall correctly, in another contest that we saw, Mav fell through the drop hatch when playing against Evil Geniuses on Clubhouse, and EG just needed to wait for Mav to try to get back to the site because he'd fallen through the hatch as well. So make sure that you're watching where you step, kids, because Hyper probably could have won that. The carbine at close range, a couple body shots on the Blackbeard, and a buck there to boot. Hyper probably would have held on because they needed to funnel through the same area to grab that diffuser. That's probably a win for Mouse, and we're going to map number 3. We still can go to map number 3, but we got overtime to go through first. Mouse is going to have the opportunity to defend twice, though, on what we've both agreed has been a pretty good defensive showdown.
Yeah, for me, really, if there's one Jaeger I'd like to have on my team from the USA, it's definitely Hyper. He's proven time and time again that there's a lot of work that he can do on the op, and I like this from Noble. We've seen a lot of plays into cache and into server using the Monty, and honestly, having the Habana because the Thermite is banned makes a lot of sense. You need the Hard Destructor, obviously, but the reason why you bring the Habana is that you need to push Garage. And the shield's important, but if you don't destroy the reinforced Garage doors downstairs to hold off the window looking into the server room, you're going to have a very, very hard time dealing with your opponents that are playing inside of the Garage. You see Crazy moving in, just trying to take down the early cameras. Heavy coming right up, and the Havana should be opening up a top hole here with the breaching pellets. There you go. That looks right up into the window, and they're going to use the Montaigne to really force the defenders into the site again.
I also want to touch on the drone economy that we've seen from Noble. It's one thing that I've picked up on, but I just wanted to see an actual specific example of it to chime in on, is they have done tremendous work at keeping their drones alive and using them in the latter half of the round to continuously update their team with information. It's been very helpful for them and able to hunt people down. EE1D will allow Yeti to work his way up the stairs. First kill is going to go to Breezy, and Yeti is basically in right now. He's going to take out the Bandit batteries, but can't finish off Vandal, as Vandal will sustain about 30 damage, and Hyper jumps in as well. That's Noble losing 2 big gunfights. Hyper dropping another. The Bandit is down, or my apologies, England, the Jaeger, is down, and Vandal taking some serious damage. Hyper also very, very low. They'll finally finish off England, but they managed to open up the wall, which was exactly what they needed to do. Noble, though, could have been a Pyrrhic victory on that wall, as they currently find themselves in a 2v3 with still half of the round to go.
Now, unfortunately, the Monty not able to cover the IQ as they walk in. And in that position, if you're Monty, you really don't want to put that shield down. It is your biggest asset and your biggest strength in the position. They'll spot the Bandit in the back. You see a lot of damage has been done to Hyper, even though he has done a decent chunk of damage himself. Ast will try to come in from the side, as there is one player watching for him, and 2 kills will go the way of Noble. It's all up to Hyper. Low on health. The diffuser will get set in the back. I don't know if the information is being relayed that the Habana is behind a soft wall, but there's only these 2 positions that you can see Hyper moving in through. He has really no more utility to play with. He'll have to contest in 1v1s, and the Lion trying to set up his Claymore. Unfortunately, almost getting shot there due to that action. Now, Crazy just holding off. He's got full health. Most Hyper will get taken out by literally anything in the game. If he just chucks the Bearing 9 at his face, it might be more than enough to kill him. See him trying to push in. Information will get relayed in, as there you go. Crazy comes in. Noble will save the round and put their first round on the board. And that's the attacking round. That is substantially more important than just taking another round.
No, and if I'm Noble now heading to defense, I mean, we've said that this is a defender-sided matchup so far, right? But at the same time, it's a pretty even split. It's 4 to 6 right now, with the attackers having 4, defenders having 6. It really hasn't been as lopsided as we would have thought, and I think a big portion of why has come from the ability for both teams to take engagements without needing to open up further lines of sight. They've just, honestly, they've been slapping each other around in close quarters combat in every single round so far.
It's just the push from the stairs is really starting to hurt at this point.
Right.
There's no solution to it from Mouse. Legion would have been great, but I have to commend Mouse and being able to hold off the garage for as long as they did. Unfortunately, they weren't able to rotate the Rook back to hold against the stairs, and with limited manpower at the end, it was not gonna fully work out. In that position, if you're on the defense, just simplest thing, don't peek your opponents. You're playing against ACOGs. You have the advantage in CQC. Just fall back and force your opponents into you, where your SMGs will really be doing the work.
And that was a perfect example, almost textbook example of when you capture the site, how difficult it is for you to retake as a defender. You know, the lineup that they had on defense, there was no information there. They had no Evil Eyes, they had no Valkyrie cameras, of course there's no Yokai drones. A Hyper was basically going in completely blind, expecting somebody to possibly still go in through those Hibana holes that had been opened up on the CCTV wall as well, but they just, unfortunately for him, he was a little bit off the pace, and that really speaks to everybody, actually, who you have to wonder, how does retaking work when you're a roamer? Well, that's exactly how it works. It often doesn't.
All right, we'll see Hyper coming up top with his buck, and the first kill will go the way of the Habana, as Yeti getting killed off on a quick peek from the stairs. And that is very unfortunate for Noble, losing their really seemingly big advantage early on. Hyper takes control of the stairs.
And that's not crippling for Noble like we've seen before. The way that Yeti plays, it's a very all-in style on a lot of defenses where he gets the first pick or he gets picked off first. It doesn't really seem to go much farther than that. Losing your Vigil early on this matchup, you know, your Vigil is going to be a really great way of delaying time. Now, all you really did was delay about 40 seconds or so, as a Valkyrie camera also gets spotted out, so Mouse doing an excellent job right now of keeping their time in check. They've used just under half of the round and put Hyper in a very powerful position where he can just look over top and just simply essentially be an Overwatch, if I can use that phrase, to just wait. But oh no, England, the Heart Breacher. It doesn't even look like he was able to get the kitchen hatch. He couldn't set it off in time. Oh, TJ eliminated. Great read from Acid from below to use that open hole and prevent any hard destruction from happening. The pendulum has firmly swung in the other direction, and Noble could be quite comfortable here for the remaining 60 seconds.
Oh, and Hyper, though, finding the kill on Breezy. He'll use the kitchen again to his advantage. That's a big kill as well on the smoke, but in my mind, Acid's position here with the toxic mines, the goo mines, definitely works out in the defense's favor. Now the Dokubi's been able to hack through the cameras. Well, actually, unfortunately for Noble here, Heavy's Valkyrie cameras will definitely be compromised in the back. Gujmot mines being thrown into crazy, but the ADSs help out in eating a bit of them. Vertical waiting maybe for a top angle to push into, but the Jaeger pulling back beastly, finishing him off, and now Blue. The so important position going the way of the attackers. Heavy trying to find the angle with the MPXs. He will hit it. C4 thrown out the back. It's Acid from the side. It's a 2v2 as Acid will get taken down by Heavy, immediately turning it into 1v1. 1 second left on the clock and playing for time. It's Noble that'll get the round on the defense. A close finisher for Noble that'll take it 2-0 against mousesports. And I have to say, this so far has been the best matchup that we've had in the US Nationals. And what a way we get Noble, our first team, to qualify for the grand finals off of especially stage 1. That's the Eastern Conference team.
25 of 26 possible rounds to start things off in a 2-0 victory, and Noble will be the very first team in US Nationals history to qualify for LAN.